Chapter 1749. He was puzzled as he imprinted. According to his original estimation, Song Jifan might not be able to remember the sky murdering tactic. To prevent it from being leaked, Song Wuji must have used some method, just like how he sealed it in Song Jifan's mind before. He suddenly understood that Song Wuji's seal was not to guard against outsiders, but to prevent Song Jifan from cultivating it in advance. Only when he had enough cultivation would the seal be undone, and he could cultivate it. If an outsider cultivated the sky-murdering tactic, he would most likely die. He shook his head secretly but did not delay imprinting the memory. Song Jifan recited the incantation in one breath and stared coldly at Chu Li. "How is it? Do you remember it?" Chu Li asked, "Is it correct?" "I can swear that I did not make a single mistake." Song Jifan scoffed. Chu Li smiled. "You have to change your oath." "What 5-blow thunderstruck? You can withstand it. How about this, if you break this oath, you will never be able to defeat me." "Fine." Song Jifan gritted his teeth. "If I tamper with it and hide the sky-murdering tactic, I will never be able to defeat you." Chu Li smiled. Song Jifan scoffed. "Keep the sky-murdering sword safe. I will definitely get it back." Chu Li shook his head. "After I cultivate the sky-murdering tactic and combine it with the sky-murdering sword, do you think I have a chance to get it back? Forget it, just be a bishop. You are strong enough now, just a little bit weaker than me." "Chu Li, don't be so arrogant. Do you really think you can cultivate the sky-murdering tactic?" Song Jifan sneered. "Didn't I tell you before? Without the ageless longevity technique, you will never be able to cultivate the sky-murdering tactic." Chu Li said, "That may not be the case. I know that the sky-murdering tactic is not a mystical technique of the longevity church. It is from the heaven-severing sect." Song Jifan was stunned and frowned at him. "You know about the heaven-severing sect too?" Chu Li smiled. "What kind of secret is this? The heaven-severing sect doesn't have the ageless longevity technique. How did they cultivate the sky-murdering tactic? They only have the sky-murdering tactic, but almost no one cultivated it. They don't have the sky-murdering sword either." Song Jifan shook his head. "The sky-murdering tactic is a waste in their hands. Isn't it extinct now? Are they really extinct?" Chu Li shook his head. "As far as I know, there are still descendants." Song Jifan sneered. "No." Chu Li frowned. "Is it because the longevity church annihilated the absolute heaven sect?" "That's right," Song Jifan said proudly. "The absolute heaven sect no longer has any descendants. It was destroyed 100 years ago." "How ruthless!" Chu Li scoffed. "Not only did you steal their secret manual, you even wanted to destroy their sect. Since they are enemies, we naturally have to kill them all." "Do we have to wait for the heaven-severing sect to cultivate a peerless master to threaten our Chongshan denomination?" Song Jifan said indifferently. "If it were you, you wouldn't be so stupid, right?" Chu Li nodded. "I see. All right then, we'll meet again. I will definitely find you." Song Jifan snorted. "I will definitely defeat you with my own hands." Chu Li smiled. "I'll be waiting." He suddenly disappeared. Song Jifan looked in the direction where he disappeared and sneered. He suddenly disappeared too and appeared on the sea in the next moment. 4 young men were standing on the sea. The seawater under their feet was calm, but other than the 1-meter radius under their feet, the rest of the sea was turbulent. The sea breeze was getting stronger and the waves were getting bigger. "Bishop, why didn't you surround him?" One of the young men frowned in dissatisfaction. "We could have surrounded him and killed him." Song Jifan looked at him and sighed. "Elder Bai, when did I not want to kill him? Then why didn't you kill him and gave him the heaven-murdering technique?" The young man was dissatisfied. "How could the heaven-murdering technique be leaked? It's an antique study that was passed down by the bishop." Song Jifan shook his head. "Elder Bai, I had no choice. The four young men looked at him in dissatisfaction. Song Jifan knew that the four elders had a high status and were over 200 years old. They looked young because of the wonders of the boundless ocean technique, but not because they were really young. If he did not explain himself clearly, they would definitely be dissatisfied. Afterward, they would come looking for him to settle the score. He could only explain patiently. Originally, I planned to cripple him with 5 people, then switch with Goddess Attraction Mountain. The four elders nodded. This was their original plan. Song Jifan sighed. But after we really fought, I realized that we all underestimated him. Even if the 5 of us worked together, we could not cripple him. He could escape easily, and it would be difficult to catch him again. That's impossible, right? Elder Bai said in a deep voice. He's that powerful? Song Jifan said. If I did not admit defeat, I would have to pay a greater price. I would need a year and a half to recover. The four elders' faces darkened. It's not a good thing to be enemies with such a person. Elder Bai said in a deep voice, but since we want to rule the world, we have to be enemies with all the heroes in the world. No matter how powerful they are, we have to step on them. That's right. The other 3 elders nodded. Bishop, you must have given him the wrong heaven murdering technique, right? Elder Bai said. Song Jifan shook his head slowly. I gave him the correct heaven murdering technique. Bishop? The 4 elders were puzzled and dissatisfied. Song Jifan scoffed. Without the ageless longevity technique, he wants to cultivate the heaven murdering technique? Unless the people of the heaven severing sect come back to life, he will definitely die. What if he really cultivates it? Elder Bai shook his head. Don't underestimate him. He is a person who constantly creates miracles and turns the impossible into the possible. What if he really cultivates it? Then he will die even faster. Song Jifan sneered. The 4 elders were stunned. Song Jifan scoffed. The heaven murdering technique uses one's lifespan, not inner energy. If he uses the heaven murdering technique, his opponent must be a top-notch master. He must give it his all. I think he will only have one chance to attack. After that, he will die. If that's the case, then it's really magical. Elder Bai smiled. Song Jifan said, if the 5 of us work together, even if we can destroy him in the end, we will have to pay a great price. We may lose 1 or 2 people. Now, he will die if he doesn't cultivate it. Even if he cultivates it, he will still die. Bishop, although you are young, you have such wisdom. It's really rare. The 4 elders laughed. As for the heaven murdering technique being widely spread, don't worry. Song Jifan scoffed. I know people's hearts, who would pass such a magical technique to others. Even their own descendants may not be willing to pass it on, let alone when there is a chance to. The 4 elders all laughed. We can't stay here anymore. Let's change places. Song Jifan said, if Chuli can find this place, those devas might be able to. That's right. The 4 elders nodded. Song Wuji had offended too many people in the Outland. After those devas descended, they would destroy the Longevity Church at all costs to cut off Song Wuji's path and attack his forces. Therefore, they left their original position in advance to avoid the devas. They did not even have time to inform the people outside. Chapter 1750. Chuli returned to his courtyard in the High Duke's public house and sat under the Glory's will tree to figure out the heaven-killing scripture. Although Goddess Attraction Mountain was quiet and full of spiritual energy, it was safer to stay in his courtyard. As for the 2 ladies, they were in a good state and should not be disturbed. He estimated that they could cultivate in isolation for another 2 to 3 months. The first stage of the heaven-killing scripture was to sense the existence of a strange power and control it. This power was not the current inner energy, nor was it spiritual energy. It was different from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It existed between heaven and earth but could not be sensed. This was the power of time. Because Chu Li had the life and death scripture and the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture, he had a deep understanding of life and death. He could easily sense the power of time. To practice this technique, one needed to be old enough to understand the changes of life and death, as well as the changes of time. It was very difficult for young people to reach this step. If they could understand it, then they could understand it. If they couldn't understand it, then they couldn't understand it. Young people were full of life and did not know the shortness of life. They thought that life was long and there was a long time waiting for them. They were so far away from death that they could not see it. It was almost impossible to feel the existence of time in this state. Just as Chu Li was about to start his cultivation, he suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. He disappeared from his courtyard and arrived at a forest outside of Chongming town. Fa Yuan was standing under a jujube tree, lost in thought. His gray cowl fluttered in the wind, exuding an aura of dust. When Chu Li appeared, he turned around and bowed. "Brother Chu, sorry to disturb you." Chu Li asked, "What is it?" If it was not urgent, Fa Yuan would not have come in a hurry. Fa Yuan sighed. "All the hearts of Azura in the demon suppression tower have risen to the sky. None are left." Chu Li frowned. "Even if the enlightened master's remains were released?" "Yes." Fa Yuan nodded lightly and said, "Honorable Master Liao Ming's remains have already been placed on the tower to conceal the mysteries of heaven, but it's still useless. I saw with my own eyes that these hearts of Azura rose into the sky, directly passing through the demon-subduing tower and disappearing into the sky. Then, the divine gate opened to receive them." Chu Li's face darkened. "The Azura boundary has made a move." Fa Yuan said, "I have a bad feeling about this." Chu Li frowned. "What do you think?" "I'm afraid that even the Azuras will descend." Fa Yuan sighed and said, "Although the descent of the celestial beings has caused a great disturbance in the world, they still have some scruples and dare not be too presumptuous. However, if it's the Azura, Amitba." He gently shook his head, pressed his palms together, and chanted the name of Buddha. "That will be a calamity for all living beings." Chu Li nodded. "Does the Tempest Temple have a way to deal with this?" Fa Yuan sighed. "Compared to the Outland, the Tempest Temple is nothing." "That's true." Chu Li said, "If that's the case, we can only deal with it carefully. Don't worry about the catastrophe of all living beings for now. Think about your Tempest Temple first. Once the Azuras descend, the Tempest Temple will definitely be a thorn in their side. They'll be the first to destroy it." "That's right." Fa Yuan nodded lightly. "That's why I'm here to inform you in advance. When the time comes, I hope that Brother Chu will be able to assist me." "Of course." Chu Li said, "We're in the same boat. Neither of us can escape. They want to deal with me too." He had killed many Azuras and even controlled a group of Azuras. Crack! A prayer bead on Fa Yuan's chest suddenly cracked and made a crisp sound. Fa Yuan's expression changed slightly. "Brother Chu, this is bad." Chu Li said, "Let's go." The two of them disappeared almost at the same time and appeared in the Tempest Temple the next moment. The chanting of scriptures was endless. The Tempest Temple was bathed in a solemn Buddha's light. Chu Li could see an invisible golden light shrouding the sky above the Tempest Temple, enveloping the entire Tempest Temple. However, the golden light was shaking. It was as if an invisible force was colliding with the Buddha's light. Moreover, it was much thinner than what Chu Li had seen before. It was obvious that it was destroying the Buddha's light. Chu Li and Fa Yuan appeared on top of the pagoda, where Fa Yuan was previously sealed as a god. They looked around. Chu Li pointed to the southeast and said, "Over there." Fa Yuan nodded. The two of them disappeared from the pagoda and appeared in the sky above a forest. A section of the courtyard wall of the Great Tempest Temple was hidden in the pine forest. At this moment, two middle-aged men were waving their palms and gently patting the red courtyard wall. They were soundless and extremely gentle, but every palm hit the Buddha light. Their palms were different from human palms. They were unusually long and thin. Their fingers were curled like eagle claws. Their nails were especially long and dark, as if they were cast from black iron. They shone with a strange luster. Chu Li and Fa Yuan stood in the void silently and looked down at the two men. At a glance, the two middle-aged men were shrouded in a red light. Their bodies could not be seen clearly. Chu Li could only vaguely see their silhouettes. However, a strange chill filled the air, causing him to unconsciously take a step back. This was the feeling of meeting a spirit beast. It was as if he had met his natural enemy. Fa Yuan turned his head to look at him. Chu Li sighed. They should be Azuras from the Outland. His voice startled the two middle-aged men, who were focused on waving their palms. They looked up and their faces were still gloomy. They only glanced at Chu Li and Fa Yuan coldly and continued waving their palms. When the Buddha's light touched their palms, their bones were exposed. Their flesh and blood were melted away. It looked eerie and terrifying. However, the two men did not seem to care about this abnormality. It was as if their palms did not belong to them. No matter how the Buddha's light melted their palms, they would immediately recover. When they touched the Buddha's light again, their flesh and blood would be melted away. This cycle did not stop and the Buddha's light became dimmer. Chu Li frowned. The palm technique of the two Azuras seemed ordinary, but it was definitely not an ordinary palm technique. It was specially used to restrain the Buddha's light. The Tempest Temple's Buddha's light was not so easily depleted. It was accumulated over thousands of years. Fa Yuan also noticed that something was wrong. He said in a low voice, "Brother Chu, I'm going to make my move." "We'll take one each," Chu Li said. "It's better to be careful." Amitabha Buddha. Fa Yuan slowly chanted the name of Buddha. "Almsgivers, please stop." As he spoke, his body flashed with purplish gold light. The sentient menace was activated. He floated towards one of the middle-aged men like a luhan. Then, he gently slapped his palm down. His palm was purplish gold in color. Stupid monk, you deserve to die." The thinner middle-aged man sneered and waved his palm. His right palm, which was like an eagle's claw, met Fa Yuan's attack gently and silently. Fa Yuan took a step back. The purplish gold light around his body flowed continuously, but the color of his palm changed. A layer of black energy crawled up his purplish gold palm and spread rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it climbed from his palm to his wrist and continued to spread upward. Chu Li frowned. The aura around the two middle-aged men suddenly stagnated, making it hard for them to breathe. A strange, turbulent energy drilled into their bodies, trying to corrode and harm them. The pine trees around them quickly withered and turned yellow. In the end, they were bare and lifeless. Chu Li took a step forward and arrived in front of the other middle-aged man. He lightly slapped his palm and used the spiritual energy of the spirit tiger. Bam! The middle-aged man rushed forward and staggered a step back. His expression changed. Red light burst out from his body, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a ball of flame. His figure could no longer be seen clearly. Only the flashing red light could be seen. Chapter 1751. Chu Li frowned as he felt a strong threat. The red light on their bodies gave him a warning to avoid them and not get close. Amitabha Buddha. Fa Yuan chanted the name of Buddha with a solemn voice. Then, a golden ray shot out from his heart and shone on the black energy that had climbed up his arm. When the black energy came into contact with the golden ray, it instantly turned into smoke and dissipated. Chu Li asked, "Fa Yuan, are you all right?" Fa Yuan said, "Brother Chu, be careful of their inner energy. Can damage your mind." Chu Li nodded. "You be careful too." Fa Yuan sighed. "I can still handle it." He was not in a hurry to use his ultimate move to kill this Azura. He wanted to find out more about them. He deduced that there would not only be two Azuras descending. There would definitely be more, just like the celestial beings. If he could find out more about them, he would be able to find a way to deal with them. He was extremely afraid of the Asura's methods. The palm energy that could damage the soul was extremely insidious. If it was not for his profound dermic base and Buddha's aura, anyone else would have been injured. Grandmasters did not care much about life and death because even if they died, they did not have to enter the cycle of reincarnation. They could directly ascend to the outland and enjoy the wonders of the outland. However, if they were injured like this and their soul was severely damaged, they might even disappear and not be able to enter the cycle of reincarnation. This was more frightening to the Grandmasters than death. He could imagine how afraid the Grandmasters were of these Asuras. Just thinking about what would happen to the world made him shiver. Suddenly, Chuli struck out with his palm. A golden ray fell from the sky and landed on his palm, forming a shining golden palm print. The next moment, the palm print landed on the body of the Asura opposite him. Bang! The Vajra palm collided with the red light and produced an earth-shattering explosion. The four people in the field were shocked by the explosion. Even Chuli did not expect such a huge commotion. The Asura opposite him suddenly contorted its face and became ferocious, as if it was suffering from great pain. Through the omniscient mirror, Chuli could see that his Vajra palm had pierced through the red light and penetrated its chest. The golden light was flickering like a raging flame, and it was getting stronger and stronger. The Vajra palm actually used the red light emitted by the Asura as fuel, continuously devouring it to strengthen itself. It seemed that this palm would be able to deal with the Asura, and such power exceeded his expectations. Could it be that the Vajra palm was specially designed to restrain their Asura power technique? Fa Yuan and the other Asura were stunned as well. They stared blankly at the Asura, watching as the muscles on his face gradually disappeared, revealing a skeleton-like face. The muscles on his limbs were also rapidly fading away, leaving only hard bones. Ah! Asura suddenly raised his head and let out a soundless roar. Chuli's vision swayed and he felt dizzy. This Asura's roar had the effect of shaking one's soul. Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture took effect immediately, quickly dispelling the strange feeling and regaining consciousness. He watched as the red light on the Asura's body suddenly blazed 10 times brighter as he ruthlessly slammed his palm onto his chest. Apart from dispersing the Vajra palm, he also broke 2 of his elbow bones. The flashing red eyes behind his head glared at Chuli, and in the next moment, he appeared in front of Chuli. A palm print flashing with golden light hit him again. Chuli had expected this, so he lowered his body and activated the sacrificial power. Then, he condensed the energy in his body to form the Vajra palm, waiting for the Asura to pounce. Bang! Another earth-shattering explosion was heard, and then the skeleton-like Asura was sent flying. The Vajra palm burned fiercely as it drilled into his body like maggots attached to bones. The Asura seemed to let out a soundless roar and hit his chest hard in the air, trying to dispel the Vajra palm. However, the Vajra palm this time was 10 times more powerful than before. Even after he broke 2 of his elbow bones, the Vajra palm was still burning fiercely, corroding his internal organs and constantly injuring him. Seeing that the situation was not good, the other Asura quickly rushed forward to help. The Asura power technique was activated, and both of their Asura power techniques overlap. The red light on their bodies shone brightly, causing Chu Li's heart to sink. He did not expect the 2 of them to be as powerful as him and Sun Mingyue when they joined forces. This made it even more difficult to deal with them. The Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture was activated continuously, and the invisible red pillar in the sky reached straight to the outland. He quickly recovered the inner energy of the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture, and before the 2 of them could dispel the Vajra palm, he struck again. An intense golden light descended from the sky, and after it condensed into a golden palm, it hit the Asura again. The 2 Vajra palms overlapped, and the damage was doubled. Ah! The Asura looked up to the sky and screamed in pain. Then, with a bang, his body was torn into pieces and he was dead. A ball of red light quickly dissipated, which meant that he had completely disappeared. Chu Li shouted, and another Vajra palm hit the red light that was about to disappear. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion was heard again. After the red light was hit by the Vajra palm, it flashed again, and the Vajra palm that was emitting a blazing golden light was pressed on a fist-sized ball. Amit Ba. Fa Yuan's expression was solemn. He recognized that it was the heart of Azura. Just as he was about to grab it, a red shadow flashed, and another Azura appeared next to the heart of Azura and swallowed it in one gulp. The fist-sized ball seemed to be unable to enter his mouth, but the ball changed shape when it reached his mouth, becoming long and flat, allowing the Azura to swallow it. The red light on the Azura's body suddenly brightened, and it was twice as intense as before. Chu Li frowned. After this Azura swallowed its companion's power, its power multiplied, and it was no different from two people working together. This was troublesome. If they could not only swallow one heart of Azura, but could swallow multiple hearts, how strong would they be? Amit Ba. Fa Yuan also thought of this, and his expression became solemn. He first formed a mudra with both of his palms, and then slowly struck the Azura with his palm. His palm flashed with a purplish-golden light, and the purplish-golden light gradually left his palm, forming a palm print and struck out. This golden palm was similar to Chu Li's Vajra palm, but the color of the light was slightly different. Chu Li's golden light was brighter and grander, while Fa Yuan's golden light was purplish-golden, heavier and more stable. Bang! In an earth-shattering explosion, the Azura was sent flying. Fa Yuan's purplish-golden palm quickly penetrated through the red light on the Azura's chest and tore through his clothes. The skin on his chest was quickly corroded, revealing his white bones. Moreover, it was still drilling in and corroding his flesh and blood. Chu Li was speechless. It turned out that not only his Vajra palm, but Fa Yuan's palm energy also had this effect. It seemed that the heart technique of Buddhism was effective against the Azura. If that was the case, the Tempest Temple would be in trouble, and the first target of the Azura that descended from the sky would be the Tempest Temple. They must destroy the Tempest Temple, and get rid of this big trouble. Fa Yuan's expression became more solemn. He had also thought of this. Amit Ba. He chanted the name of Buddha, and without waiting for the Azura to react, another purplish-golden palm print hit. Even though the Azura had doubled in strength, it still could not withstand Fa Yuan's palm energy, and its power was gradually worn down by the purplish-golden palm print. In the end, it was broken into pieces, and with a loud bang, the two balls of red light were about to dissipate. Chapter 1752. Chu Li stepped forward to support him and sent a warm inner energy to him. At the same time, he struck a ball of red light with his Vajra palm energy. He realized that Fa Yuan was empty and his body was empty. For an enlightened master, this was rare and almost impossible. An enlightened master's inner energy was endless and almost infinite. Fa Yuan borrowed Chu Li's inner energy and struck out with his palm as well. The two golden palms prevented the two balls of red light from dissipating. They were stuck in a stalemate in the air for a while. Fa Yuan smiled bitterly. "Thank you, Brother Chu." Chu Li said, "There's no need for us to thank each other." He looked at the two balls of red light that were fighting against the two golden palm print. For a moment they were in a stalemate. The red light was even more powerful than the red light from the two Azuras. It was able to prevent the two hearts of Azura from being hit. Fa Yuan sighed. "From now on, the world is going to be in chaos." Chu Li said, "Don't be so pessimistic, there might be a turn for the better. However, the Tempest Temple needs to be prepared first. It's going to be very dangerous this time." Once the two Azuras broke through the defenses of the Tempest Temple, they would charge in and start a massacre. It was unknown how many disciples of the Tempest Temple would be out of luck. What was worse was that the two Asuras had the power to injure their souls. The disciples of the Tempest Temple would not even be able to enter the Outland. Fa Yuan nodded lightly. Indeed, we need to prepare well. Chu Li asked, can you block it? Do your best. Fa Yuan frowned as he looked at the two hearts of Asura. Suddenly, two beams of red light fell from the sky and accurately hit the two hearts of Asura, directly dispersing Chu Li and Fa Yuan's golden palm prints. Bang bang! With two explosions, the two hearts of Asura shot up into the sky and disappeared in an instant. The two beams of red light disappeared as well, as if they had never been there. Chu Li glared at the sky with a gloomy expression and turned to look at Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan's expression was ugly too. It was obvious that the Asura of the sky beyond sky had interfered and taken away the heart of Asura. Fa Yuan said in a low voice, "This is the same method used to steal the heart of Asura from the demon-subduing tower." What a great Asura! Chu Li gritted his teeth and scoffed. Looks like the world is indeed going to be in chaos. The Asuras of the sky beyond Avalon directly intervened, which was even more blatant than the sky beyond Avalon's methods. Fa Yuan asked, "What palm technique did Brother Chu use earlier?" "Vajra palm," Chu Li said calmly. "I obtained it through a fortuitous encounter. This is indeed the supreme palm technique of Buddhism." Fa Yuan smiled. "Brother Chu's luck is always good." Chu Li scoffed. "You're much luckier than me. I've taken many risks and suffered many setbacks to get to where I am today. Fa Yuan, on the other hand, you've been gifted since you were young. You've entered the Tempest Temple and cultivated step by step. At the very last moment, there's even someone to help you increase your cultivation level. From then on, you've steadily stepped into the enlightened mastery's boundary. Right now, I'm still far from becoming an enlightened master. Brother Chu is now stronger than an enlightened master," Fa Yuan said with a smile. He also felt that what Chu Li said made sense. Fortuitous encounters were often accompanied by strange dangers. Chu Li did not have a master, so it was a miracle that he could cultivate to this stage. The amount of effort and suffering he had to put in was 10 times or even 10 times more than what he had. Chu Li said, "An enlightened master and a grandmaster are two completely different boundaries. They can't be compared. If he became an enlightened master, it would be easier for him to fight. Killing an Asura would be effortless, and he would not need to use any sacrificial divine power. Moreover, once an enlightened master was cultivated, he would be able to freely use his divine powers in front of other enlightened masters. The power of God's limbs and omniscient mirror would be 100 times stronger. Unlike now, when he was in front of an enlightened master, his divine powers were restrained in the enlightened master field. It was as if his eyes were blinded and his legs were cut off. It was extremely awkward, and his strength was greatly reduced." Fa Yuan said, "Brother Chu, you're not far from becoming an enlightened master, right?" Chu Li shook his head and sighed. "It's not far, but it's not close either. It still depends on luck. If I'm unlucky, I won't be able to become an enlightened master in 8 to 10 years. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to do it in half a year." The key now was the vermilion bird. If he could find the vermilion bird's help and quickly cultivate the vermilion bird power, he might be able to step into the enlightened master's boundary. Now, he was trying to combine the 3 heart techniques other than the vermilion bird power, and he was beginning to see result. Fa Yuan said, "Then I wish you good luck, Brother Chu. Continue." "Yes, I can only hope." Chu Li sighed. "It seems that Buddhist martial arts are more effective against Asuras than I thought." "That's right." Fa Yuan nodded. He knew that both Buddhist martial arts and Buddhist techniques could restrain Asuras. However, when he had encountered Asuras before and fought alongside Chu Li, the effects were not as strong. This time, however, the 2 Asuras from the Grandmaster's boundary could not even withstand his Sumeru palm and Chu Li's titanium palm. Chu was about to continue the discussion with Fa Yuan when his expression suddenly changed. Fa Yuan looked at him. Chu said, "There's an emergency, I'll leave first. If you're in danger, just call me." Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. Chu suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in the Divine Light Basilica of the Great Light Peak. Inside the Divine Light Basilica, the wind howled and thunder rumbled. 4 elders were surrounding Sun Mingyue. Li Meng was lying on the ground, motionless and lifeless. Sun Mingyue's face was covered with a white veil. The veil was dyed red, but her eyes were as cold as ice. The 4 elders' bodies were faintly glowing with a red light. However, the red light, which was easily overlooked, made Chu shudder. These 4 elders were Asuras, and their abilities were 5 to 6 times stronger than the ones he had encountered before. Sun Mingyue was obviously injured. She was at a disadvantage against the 4 elders' attacks. The 4 elders worked together as one. Their claws were sharp, and their long and hard nails were like steel hooks. Every time they flashed, they cut through the air and made a chi-chi sound. Every time Sun Mingyue's divine light fist collided with one of the elders, there would be a thunderous sound. Chu was not in a hurry to save Sun Mingyue. He first went to Li Meng. Li Meng was also dressed in white. She was lying on the ground with pieces of flesh around her mouth. It was obvious that her internal organs were destroyed. She was dead. He gave her a spirit blessing pill to see if it could save her life. Then, he turned to look at Sun Mingyue. Sun Mingyue had already seen Chu. After she calmed down, her body emitted a raging flame. It was as if a scorching sun had fallen into the basilica. The god's field became as intense as the blazing sun, as if it was going to melt everything. The 4 elders could only emit the red light around their bodies to resist the heat. The red light flickered continuously. It was obvious that they were fighting fiercely with Sun Mingyue's god's field. Chu could see that Sun Mingyue's divine light fist and great light scripture were restraining the 4 elders' red light. Chu immediately understood. In a flash, the void light technique disappeared along with Li Meng. The next moment, he appeared again, standing side by side with Sun Mingyue. They were surrounded by the 4 elders. It was only when they stepped into the arena that they felt the strength of the 4 Asuras. Their nails were as sharp as knives. Even if they were not cut, they could feel the pain from a distance. Chapter 1753. As soon as Sun Mingyue held his hand, both of their auras were connected and their powers increased by 2 times. Their powers increased by 2 times each, which was equivalent to a 4-fold increase. Chu endured the sharpness of Sun Mingyue's supreme titanium scripture's inner energy. As it flowed through his body, it continuously destroyed his meridians. Fortunately, his indestructible body of titanium and black tortoise power had strengthened his meridians. Even if her inner energy was destructive, it did not damage his meridians. Chu asked, "Why did they attack here?" "They appeared out of nowhere." Sun Mingyue replied, "They broke through the obstacles in one fell swoop. The Holy Church has been lax over the years and did not guard strictly enough, which gave them an opportunity." Chu shook his head. Even if the security was tight, it wouldn't have been able to stop them. "Yes." Sun Mingyue's voice was slightly hoarse. This was what angered her. The Holy Church of Light's defense could not stop these 4 people. Each of them was not inferior to her, but the 4 of them joined forces and took the opportunity to kill her disciple. They harbored evil intentions. Just to make him lose his composure, they disregarded a life that was as precious as a flower and as precious as jade. As a master, she was unable to protect her own disciple. This made her furious. Being able to deal with this calmly was already her limit. If Chu still did not come, she would have to use a technique that would destroy everything indiscriminately. Chu used his divine light fist to deal with the 4 claw shadows and disperse them. He kept retreating as he said, "They've also attacked the Tempest Temple. I've already killed 2 of them. My Vajra palm is the perfect counter for them. The titanium palm? Sun Mingyue was surprised. She and Chu Li cultivated the supreme titanium scripture. She had reached the same level as Chu Li, but she did not cultivate the indestructible body of titanium. She was not that interested in the titanium palm. However, the titanium palm was different from the indestructible body of titanium. The titanium palm was a technique that used palm energy. Although it was difficult to cultivate, it was not a problem for her. She had already mastered it. The indestructible body of titanium was layered, and each layer was more powerful than the one before. It required continuous cultivation. On the other hand, the titanium palm was mastered. All that was left was the control. Come, Chu Li said. Sun Mingyue nodded lightly and suddenly struck out with her palm. A ray of golden light descended from the sky, passing through the roof of the hall and landing on her palm. It then condensed into a golden palm print in front of her palm. It was not as bright as Chu Li's, but it was so yellow that no one dared to look at it directly. Her body felt empty, and the internal energy of the Supreme Vajra Sutra was almost exhausted. Chu Li's supreme titanium scripture instantly helped her replenish her strength. Then, he pushed out his palm and unleashed all of his supreme titanium scripture's inner energy. His palm print was so fast that it instantly caught up with Sun Mingyue's palm print. The two palm imprints overlapped each other. Immediately, a dazzling bright yellow light struck an elder. The old man stretched out his palm and sneered. The other three people pounced on Chu Li and Sun Mingyue at the same time. They could tell that the two of them were at their weakest after using their palms. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue retreated lightly to avoid the combined attack of the three elders. Bang! The Vajra palm struck the old man and sent him flying. The sound was as loud as a clap of thunder. The other three elders were shocked and looked at their companions. The old man's entire body had sunk into the red pillar. The red pillar looked like it was made of tofu. The palm print that was burning with yellow light kept pressing on the old man like it was trying to squeeze into his body. His body quickly dried up and his flesh was gone. Only his bones were left and he became a skeleton. After devouring his flesh, the yellow flame of the Vajra palm burned even more fiercely. It was so powerful that it seemed like it was going to burn his bones. Ah! The old man let out a roar. His voice was filled with intense pain and unwillingness. Bang! The old man suddenly exploded. The red pillar broke into two and the basilica shook. The other three elders seemed to be in disbelief. Then, their eyes turned red and the red light on their bodies was no longer suppressed. It burned like a raging flame. The surging cold air seemed like it was going to freeze the divine light basilica. The red light was like a raging flame, but the aura it emitted was extremely cold. It was so cold that it penetrated one's heart. Even though Chu Li and Sun Mingyue had strong willpower, they still wanted to escape. It was as if they had met their natural enemy. Chu Li understood that this was the murderous energy on their bodies. Every time they killed someone, their murderous energy would become stronger. With such a strong murderous energy they had killed at least 1,000 people or even 10,000 people. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Kill! The three elders scoffed and pounced towards the flashing red light. They wanted to take back their companion's heart of Azura. Chu Li had already hit the heart of Azura with his palm. Then, he hit it again. The two Vajra palms seemed to wrap around the heart of Azura. The golden light flashed and formed a stalemate with the red light. Then, he hit it again. Sun Mingyue hit the three Azuras to prevent them from pouncing forward. Chu Li used the life and death scripture to recover the inner energy of the supreme titanium scripture. With Sun Mingyue's help, the Vajra palms did not slow down at all. He hit after hit at an incredible speed. He wanted to see if the Vajra palms could destroy the heart of Azura. Unfortunately, the red light outside the heart of Azura was extremely tough. No matter how hard the Vajra palms tried, it could not break through. Moreover, the more the red light was compressed, the stronger it became. When it was close to the heart of Ahura, the Vajra palms could not break through. Suddenly, a red light fell from the sky like a thin red pillar. It penetrated the roof of the temple and fell on the heart of Ahura. The heart of Ahura suddenly expanded and then disappeared. The red light in the sky also disappeared. Chu Li's face darkened. The heart of Ahura was taken back by the Grandmaster again. The remaining three worked together and pressured Sun Mingyue so much that she could not breathe. However, she did not retreat. She wanted nothing more than to crush them into pieces. As a master, if she could not protect her disciple, she should at least avenge her disciple. Chu Li took a deep breath and lowered his body. He performed the sacrificial power and then quickly hit the three with 3 Vajra palms. The Vajra palms ignored distance restrictions. Once it was condensed, it would hit in an instant. The three seemed to be prepared for it. They disappeared in a flash and hid behind a red pillar in the next moment. However, they did not expect the Vajra palms to turn. They were relieved when they went behind the red pillar. When the Vajra palms appeared again, it was too late for them to breathe. They could only watch as the Vajra palms hit their chests. Then, the skin on their chests was corroded, followed by their flesh and blood, and finally, their vitality. It was like red-hot iron falling on snow. The iron melted without any resistance. They roared and hit the Vajra palms. They wanted to break it, but unfortunately, they could not. With Sun Mingyue's help, he used the sacrificial power again. He used his lifespan to amplify the supreme Vajra scripture's inner energy by 10 times. The power was shocking. After the three were hit, they quickly turned into skeletons and then split into pieces. The 3 red lights flickered and wanted to disappear. Chu Li frowned and hesitated for a moment. He still hit them 3 times. He was curious about what would happen to the 3 hearts of Ahura if he ignored them. In the end, he decided to hit them hard and force them to return to the Grandmaster. Chapter 1754. 3 red lights descended and took away the heart of Ahura. The divine light basilica was in a mess. Sun Mingyue took a deep breath and took off the white veil on her face. Her eyes flashed coldly as she scanned the surroundings. She had nowhere to vent her anger. Chu Li said, "Let's go and see Li Meng." Sigh. Sun Mingyue shook her head and sighed. She did not even want to face Li Meng. Ever since she was accepted into the faction, she was first put under Chu Li's care for a while. After laying a solid foundation, she was kept by Chu Li's side. Chu Li was strict with her, just like how Master treated her. Now that she thought about it, Li Meng was lively and different from her. She should not have been so strict with her. She should have been given more freedom and let her spiritual energy be more active. Maybe then she would have been more successful. Unfortunately, all these thoughts were just wishful thinking. Chu Li smiled. "Don't worry, she won't die." Sun Mingyue was startled. Then, a smile appeared on her face. She suddenly thought of Chu Li's ability. He could bring the dead back to life. He had died a few times and was still alive. She quickened her pace and caught up to Chu Li. They arrived at the backyard. Li Meng was lying quietly on the bed. Her face was pale and her breath was weak. Chu Li smiled. Although she was badly injured, her body is still strong. She is fine. Why don't I bring her back to rest for a while? The spiritual energy there is thicker. The spirit blessing pill of the Haiduke's public house lives up to its name. Sun Mingyue stared at Li Meng and shook her head. Such a miraculous pill is in the public house. It was a waste for the public house to have such a pill. If it was in the hands of the public house's protectors, it could only save an innate master. However, in the hands of the Holy Church of Light, it could save the top grandmasters. Chu Li smiled. "If you want it, I can give you some. The public house has always been giving this pill to the public. However, due to the low production, we don't give much. Most of it is for our own use." "Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble because of your wealth?" Sun Mingyue scoffed. Chu Li said, Actually, everyone knows the secret recipe of this spirit medicine. Unfortunately, spirit medicine is hard to come by, so sometimes the public house will sell some spirit medicine to the outside world for others to refine. Now, it's not that rare anymore. Let's buy some too, Sun Mingyue said. Initially, she did not really believe in this spirit blessing pill. After all, it was just an elixir from the public house. Most of the time, it was just bragging about how miraculous it was. Now that she saw that Li Meng was saved by the spirit blessing pill, she realized that she had underestimated the spirit blessing pill. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Water, water, Li Meng suddenly murmured. Sun Mingyue hurriedly poured a cup of water for Li Meng. She used her inner energy to cool the water down, making it warm enough for her to drink. Then, she gently helped Li Meng up and slowly fed her the water. Li Meng slowly opened her eyes. Her gloomy eyes moved. She was currently lying in her master's embrace, struggling for a bit. Chu Li said, "Don't move, Li Meng. How does it feel to be reincarnated?" "I'm alive again, Martial Uncle Chu?" Li Meng smiled. Chu Li smiled and nodded. "You're tough, you won't die." Li Meng chuckled. "I thought I was going to die this time. I would never be able to see my master again. Before I die, I am filled with regret." "Regret what?" Chu Li asked. "I wasn't diligent in my cultivation, so I couldn't step into the Grandmaster's boundary. Otherwise, I could still step into the Grandmaster's boundary after I die." Li Meng gently shook her head. "It would be great if I could see the Grandmaster's boundary. Is it because I didn't treat you well, so you're looking for the Grandmaster?" Sun Mingyue scoffed. Li Meng hurriedly said, "Of course not, my master treats me extremely well." Chu Li chuckled. "I've seen how your master treats you. It's really not very good." Sun Mingyue rolled her eyes at him. Chu Li said, "How about it? Do you want to come to my place to recuperate?" "I still have to go?" Li Meng said with a bitter face. "Don't tell me I have to chant scriptures again? You've already passed the part of chanting scriptures." Chu Li smiled. "Your cultivation progress is indeed too slow. I have to help you grow faster." "Then what should I do?" Li Meng asked. Chu Li looked at Sun Mingyue and said, "Why don't you send her to the Snow Lunar Pavilion? I have a friend there who can take care of her. Moreover, there's a surpassing state in the Snow Lunar Pavilion. She can directly step into the Grandmaster's boundary." Sun Mingyue hesitated for a moment before gently nodding. The Great Light Peak was now a dangerous place. Logically speaking, Li Meng could not retreat. However, Li Meng's cultivation level was too low. She would only die if she stayed. It was best to send her to the Snow Lunar Pavilion. There was Li Hanyan there, who was Chu Li's confidant. "I don't want to leave master," Li Meng hurriedly said. Sun Mingyue gave her a sidelong glance. Li Meng hurriedly smiled. "But I know I'll only be a burden if I stay. I'll definitely train hard." "If you slack off, you'll suffer when you return," Sun Mingyue scoffed. "Don't worry, master." Li Meng hurriedly put on an obedient look. Her complexion was getting better. Of course, it was because of the spirit blessing pill, but it was also because Chu Li had secretly activated the life and death scripture to help her recover. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue stood at the top of the Great Light Peak with their hands behind their backs, bathing in the watery moonlight. "I wonder how many Asuras have come down this time," Chu Li said solemnly. "The Tempest Temple has made their move, and so has this place. It's very likely that they're targeting the Buddhist sections. I think the Titanium Temple won't be spared." He was not really worried about the Titanium Temple. He had personally experienced the strength of the Titanium Temple. Not to mention the temple's defense, even the few elders in the temple were all invincible. He would not be able to win if he went there, let alone the Asuras. Sun Mingyue said, "If it's really as you said, and the Celestials and Asuras are fighting, then the mission of the Asuras is to kill the Celestials, right? It's useless to kill the Grandmasters. Instead, they'll become strong reinforcement." Chu Li shook his head. The Asuras can damage souls. They can even destroy the souls of the Grandmasters. Sun Mingyue frowned. Then we'll be in trouble. Chu Li sighed. I'm just afraid that their target is the Grandmasters. They want to kill all the Grandmasters and cut off the support this world has to the Grandmasters. Sun Mingyue nodded lightly. She had the same concern. If that was really the case, it would definitely set off a bloody storm. Who knew how many Grandmasters would survive? Moreover, the Asura's cultivation method was to kill people. They might not care about anything and kill wantonly. They might not even let ordinary people go. Just the thought of it made her tremble. Looks like we'll have to join forces with the other enlightened masters to deal with the Asuras. Sun Mingyue frowned. Don't forget about the reincarnation temple. Although that monk Luanming is despicable, we can't not save him. Chu Li nodded. He did not like monk Luanming at all. He even wanted to kill him. This old monk was hypocritical and cunning. Chu Li really wanted to get rid of him. However, he was always so slippery that he could not find a chance to kill him. When the howling cold wind blew by the two of them, it turned into a gentle breeze that ruffled their clothes. Sun Mingyue gently stroked her hair and said calmly, "You have to be careful. You'll definitely become a thorn in their side after killing so many Asuras. I'm afraid that the first one they'll want to get rid of will be you." Chu Li scoffed. "I'm waiting for them. I can see that you're happy. Did you get what you wanted?" Sun Mingyue asked. "Did you collect the spirit beast heart technique?" Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Congratulations." Sun Mingyue nodded. "But you have to be more careful." Chu Li said, "I'll be careful. I'll go back and cultivate first. Call me if anything happens." Chapter 1755. When Chu Li sent Li Meng to Snow Lunar Pavilion, Li Hanyan, who had just returned from her training, grumbled to him. He did not come to see her for a long time and was indifferent to her. She wanted to know how he killed an enlightened master, how he could kill an enlightened master when he was still a grandmaster, and if she could do it. Her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds, but she was only a grandmaster and was still far from being an enlightened master. Chu Li gave her a few words of encouragement before giving her a few more warnings. He told her not to challenge an enlightened master as her abilities were still far from being able to match up to an enlightened master. Then, he unleashed his force field, pressuring her to the point where she could not breathe and was unable to move or fight back. Li Hanyan finally confirmed the gap between her and an enlightened master and Chu Li. She felt a little restless and decided to cultivate again. Chu Li also taught her the sword technique he created. Her talent in sword technique was amazing and not inferior to Shao Qi's. Her future achievements would not be inferior to Shao Qi's, but she needed time. He returned to his courtyard in the public house and calmed down to study the heaven-killing scripture. The heaven-killing scripture drove the invisible power of time. He knew this power and could feel it. Because of the life and death scripture, he quickly aged and grew older because of this power. He did not expect that he could use the heaven-killing scripture to unleash such power. It was really an eye-opener. He admired the infinite wisdom of the sages, which was far beyond his reach. It was admirable. The power of time was the most difficult stage. After this stage, what was left was the complicated operation method. Chu Li was once again amazed that he was able to create such a complicated operation method. His wisdom was beyond imagination. As time passed, 3 days later, he had mastered the heaven-killing scripture. Back then, Song Jifan did not spend much time to master this scripture. After stepping over the power of time, it was not too difficult for geniuses like him. It was easy and easy. However, he knew that the power of time used by the heaven-killing scripture was his lifespan. Once it was used, he would lose at least 10 years of his lifespan. The stronger the power, the more lifespan he would consume. He could increase the power of time at will to increase the power. Now, His strongest strike could extend one's lifespan by 100 years. After 3 strikes, he would almost die. It was no wonder that Song Jifan would pass on such a sword technique to him. He had bad intentions. Even during the cultivation process, he would consume the power of time. If it weren't for the experience of the life and death scripture, he would have died during the cultivation process. Song Jifan's heart was truly vicious, wanting to kill him without even fighting. After he mastered this sword technique, he did not feel excited. The life and death scripture could draw upon the power of time, but it didn't increase it or decrease it. It just kept going back and forth, and couldn't increase his longevity. The ageless live forever technique could increase his longevity, but he didn't want to use it. If he really wanted to use the heaven-killing art, his own life wouldn't last long. Once he stepped into the heavenly deity realm, his lifespan would increase, but no matter how much it increased, after using the heaven-killing art, it wouldn't be enough, and he would have to leave this realm early. This was something he didn't want. The most important thing now was to quickly step into the heavenly god realm and increase his lifespan. Otherwise, if he was forced to use the heaven-murdering art at the crucial moment, he would die before he could become a heavenly god. That would be a real injustice. He definitely had to use the heaven-murdering art in the battle against the spirit tiger. Who knew how much lifespan he could save and how long he could live? When he thought about this, he felt a little heavy. Suddenly, his mind moved and he disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in the backyard of the Ren public house. In the gazebo, Lu Yurong was dressed in a snow-white robe. She was holding the jade railing and looking up at the bright moon. As soon as Chu Li appeared, she turned around. Her eyes were bright and sparkling. Chu Li, something big has happened. Chu Li looked at her and gestured for her to continue. When he saw the solemn expression on Lu Yurong's face, he knew it was not a trivial matter. His Majesty has ascended, Lu Yurong said. Under the moonlight, she looked like she was carved from white jade. Her skin was warm and translucent. Chu Li was stunned. Ling Wufeng has ascended? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded slowly. It happened an hour ago. His Highness the Crown Prince has now become an enlightened master and become the new emperor. Chu Li frowned. Why did he suddenly ascend? Did he do it himself? He was killed by someone. Lu Yurong said, just like Tang Haotian back then. Chu Li asked, which one of them could have killed him? I heard it was done by a celestial, Lu Yurong said slowly. Celestial? Chu Li scoffed. Not Azura? Azura came down too? Lu Yurong frowned. They came down so quickly? You know? Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong said, this is my speculation. I think that the celestial beings fought with Azura and were at a disadvantage, so they came down to recruit soldiers. They must have done this behind Azura's back, so they shouldn't have been discovered so quickly. If they could have kept it a secret for a long time, they wouldn't have lost. Chu Li scoffed. That's true. Lu Yurong frowned and scoffed. She then looked at him. Suan was supposed to inherit the throne, but it seems like it's too late. Once the crown prince ascends the throne, I'm afraid King An's imperial residence will. King Jing looked kind on the outside, but he was mean and merciless on the inside. If he wanted his son to inherit the throne, he would definitely eliminate those who could threaten Ling Feng, and the most important one was Suan. If Suan was not eliminated, it would be difficult for Ling Feng Duan to become an enlightened master. Although there was still a long time until the next enlightened master, they had to be careful because Suan was a disciple of the Titanium Temple. Once he was successful in his cultivation, even enlightened masters could not threaten him. Therefore, if they wanted to act, they had to eliminate Suan before he grew stronger. Chu Li was the first obstacle to getting rid of Su, and Lu Yurong did not need to think too much about it. She immediately concluded that King Jing would definitely deal with Chu Li. Even if Chu Li had a reputation of killing enlightened masters, King Jing, who had just obtained an overbearing power, would not take it to heart. He would only believe it after personally experiencing it. Chu Li nodded slowly. I'd like to see the new emperor's divine technique. It's better to be careful. King Jing is stronger than Ling Wufeng, Lu Yurong said. Don't fail miserably and fall into his hands. Of course. Chu Li smiled. Did you gain anything in the Empyrean fairy sect? I gained a lot, so much so that it's unimaginable. Lu Yurong sighed. If I cultivated by myself, I'm afraid I won't be able to reach this level in my lifetime. The Empyrean fairy power is really mysterious. Chu Li nodded. Lu Yurong's current strength was not inferior to Shao Qi, who was in isolated cultivation. The two of them seemed to have an agreement. One was strong while the other was strong, and both were improving rapidly. Although there was still a huge gap between them, they were only slightly inferior to enlightened masters. Although Lu Yurong did not have an Empyrean supporting her, she had the Empyrean fairy sect's support. The Empyrean fairy sect was also an ancient sect that was showing signs of revival. Chu Li vaguely felt that there might be an Empyrean hiding behind it. You're here. Suddenly, a loud laugh was heard. The two of them turned to look. A figure in bright yellow appeared in the void. It was King Jing, the new emperor, Leng Shoren. Chu Li fist saluted and said, Congratulations, Your Majesty. Leng Shoren chuckled. Chief Chu, are you disappointed? Chapter 1756. Who do you think you are to criticize my father? Ling Shoren's expression changed as he glared at Chu Li. The god's field suddenly intensified as if a knife was cutting Chu Li's skin but it could not cut through. The indestructible body of diamond allowed him to face the god's field calmly without fear. Chu Li chuckled. Why can't I criticize the late emperor? He died for no reason and in such a humiliating manner. Should I praise him? He was ambushed and killed by a few celestials. Leng Shoren scoffed. If it were you, you would have died too. Chu Li laughed and shook his head. Don't you know how many celestials I killed, Your Majesty? A few celestials ganged up on me, 10? 9. Leng Shoren scoffed. There are differences between celestials. The ones you killed were just small fries, but the ones who ambushed my father were different. They were all elites among the celestials. Chu Li waved his hand. He was killed without any preparation. Your Majesty ascended the throne in a hurry and was unprepared. Can Your Majesty handle the chaos of the celestials with your current strength? Of course. Ling Shoren scoffed proudly. Chu Li shook his head. I don't think you can do it. Arrogant. Ling Shoren narrowed his eyes and sneered. Today, I will let you know the immensity of heaven and earth. Chu Li said, Your Majesty, are you here to kill me? It's just a sparring session. Ling Shoren said. Chu Li chuckled. You dare not admit to what you did. You don't look like a ruler at all. All right, so what if I kill you? Ling Shoren said. Do you think you don't deserve to die? Chu Li tilted his head and looked at him with interest. Your Majesty, aren't you afraid that Goddess Attraction Mountain will cause you trouble? The immortal Attraction Mountain was his backer, and it was also what people feared the most about him. Half of the reason he could run amok until now was due to his martial arts, and the other half was due to the powerful backing of Goddess Attraction Mountain, as well as the deterrence of Zhou Dunli and even the Golden Dragon. Otherwise, a few Empyrean gods might have joined forces to kill him. So what if it's Goddess Attraction Mountain? Leng Shoren scoffed. Goddess Attraction Mountain hasn't appeared for many years. It's just an empty shell to scare people. Ha ha! Chu Li laughed and shook his head. Leng Shoren scoffed, is it wrong? Chu Li sighed and said, Your Majesty, the ignorant are truly fearless. If the late emperor was as brave as you are, I'm afraid he would have found someone to kill me long ago. What do you mean by that? Ling Shoren frowned. Lu Yurong said, Your Majesty, I can testify that Goddess Attraction Mountain is not an empty shell. It's just that there hasn't been anything worth making a move on. More importantly, even if Goddess Attraction Mountain were to make a move, outsiders wouldn't know. So Your Majesty, please think twice before you act. Yurong, you disappoint me. Leng Shoren shook his head and looked at Lu Yurong with pity. You could have been my right-hand man, my only confidant. Your Majesty's favor, I do not deserve it, and I do not have the fortune to enjoy it. Lu Yurong said coldly. Leng Shoren sighed. I know that you've been complaining about what I did in the past, but I was just taking advantage of the situation at that time. How could I really let you marry into the Fu dynasty? How could I bear to do that? I thought that since you're so intelligent, Yurong, you would be able to understand my painstaking efforts. I didn't expect you to fall in love with Chu Li so easily. Chu Li smiled. I still have to thank Your Majesty for granting me my wish. Leng Shoren scoffed. But I know, Yurong, you've always wanted to help me. It's just that I didn't personally ask you for it, so you couldn't bring yourself to do it. Today, I'll let go of my pride. Yurong, come back with me. Lu Yurong shook her head. She was too lazy to say anything else. Seeing Leng Shoren like this, she felt a little sad. Was this Leng Shoren's nature, or was it power that made him like this? It was as if he was a completely different person from King Jing. Leng Shoren frowned. Yurong, you don't agree? I don't agree, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li said, Your Majesty, Yurong is my wife. Aren't you going to ask for my opinion? You're just a figurehead, a shield. Leng Shoren glanced at Chu Li and laughed coldly. Others may not know, but do you think I don't? She's such a proud woman. Why would she share a husband with another woman? Lu Yurong said, Your Majesty, you're wrong. I am indeed from the Chu family. Yurong, my eyes are still useful. Leng Shoren pointed at his eyes and smiled. You're still a virgin, so you're not really married to Chu Li. It's just a temporary measure. You're using him as a shield. Chu Li frowned and scoffed. Your Majesty, you really have a pair of sharp eyes. Leng Shoren scoffed in disdain. Chu Li, do you really think that just because you're a little better in martial arts, all the women in the world will like you? Chu Li said, I dare not. Leng Shoren waved his hand impatiently. I'm talking to Yurong. Go away. Chu Li laughed. Lu Yurong said, If Your Majesty wants to talk about this, please don't say it. Also, although I can't lose my virginity because of my cultivation, it's not like what Your Majesty said. If there's nothing else, Your Majesty, please go back. Forgive me for not seeing you off. Leng Shoren stared at Lu Yurong without blinking. Lu Yurong responded coldly. Chu Li smiled and looked at Leng Shoren. He was suddenly curious about Leng Shoren's thoughts. It seemed like his feelings for Lu Yurong were complicated. She wasn't just a subordinate or a niece. There might be other feelings mixed in. Lu Yurong was indifferent and ignored him. Leng Shoren took a deep breath. If that's the case, I'll kill Chu Li first. I'll tell you in detail. Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li waved his hand to stop her. He smiled. Your Majesty, why do you gather? Straight away. You're courting death. Leng Shoren scoffed and slammed his palm. Chu Li's expression did not change. The God Slayer sword appeared. Ah! Leng Shoren screamed. His body trembled and fell. The God Slayer sword was useless against celestials and spirit beasts. But it was enough to deal with Leng Shoren. He could tell that Leng Shoren's cultivation was not strong enough. Although he was an enlightened master, Chu Li did not care. After Leng Shoren screamed, he immediately realized that it was embarrassing for him to scream like that. His face turned red, and he became angry out of humiliation. He glared at Chu Li, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Chu Li chuckled. Another God Slayer sword shot out. Leng Shoren grunted. His yellow robe fluttered even though there was no wind. His eyes were bloodshot. 2 God Slayer swords had injured him. He was in a frenzy. Chu Li suddenly pressed down on his sword. Suddenly, a turbulent aura poured down like a broken dam. Leng Shoren could not breathe under the pressure. The The crouching tiger divine's sword was unsheathed. It slowly approached him. Ling Shoren widened his eyes. He wanted to dodge, but his body was bound by an invisible force. He could only watch as the crouching tiger divine's sword approached him. It was about to pierce his forehead. Chu Li suddenly retracted his sword. The violent aura disappeared. It was as if what happened was a dream. Chu Li's hand left the scabbard. He shook his head and smiled. You can't even take one hit. Your Majesty, you should go back and cultivate. Don't get ambushed by celestials again. Alright. Ling Shoren looked at Lu Yurong's cold face. He gritted his teeth. I've learned my lesson. Chapter 1757. He melted into the void and disappeared without a trace. Chu Li shook his head. His Majesty is really impatient. Be careful, he might do something desperate. Lu Yurong frowned and said, I didn't expect him to hate you so much. He can't wait to get rid of you. If he doesn't succeed this time, he won't give up. What other tricks does he have? Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong pondered and said, they will probably join forces with Meng Xiaoqi. The celestial beings hate you to the core. Meng Xiaoqi will find a few celestial beings and they will definitely be able to work together. If the two groups join forces, can you handle them? We really have to be careful, Chu Li said seriously. Lu Yurong sighed. I didn't expect the late emperor to be killed so easily. Even now, she still found it hard to believe. Ling Wufeng was a cold and emotionless monarch. He was cunning and very difficult to scheme against, yet he was besieged by celestials and had no choice but to ascend to heaven. Chu Li said, our current emperor is an impatient person. Lu Yurong was stunned and looked at him. She was smart enough to understand the hidden meaning behind Chu Li's words. Chu Li sighed. I hope I'm wrong. It can't be, right? Lu Yurong frowned at him. No matter how rebellious he is, he wouldn't do something like this. Who exactly is Meng Xiaoqi? Any news? Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong nodded lightly. The leader of the demonic blade sect, and the Ling family was originally from the demonic blade sect. Chu Li was surprised. Lu Yurong said, the ancestor of the Ling family was originally a disciple of the demonic blade clan. The student surpassed the master and eventually conquered this land. It could be said that he was a genius. The demonic blade clan had disappeared for thousands of years, but they did not go extinct. They trusted the leader of the demonic blade clan deeply. Chu Li laughed. He had guessed wrongly. I don't think Meng Xiaoqi would do something like that. After all, Ling Wufeng is a disciple of the Fiend Blade sect. That might not be the case. Chu Li shook his head. He felt that there was something fishy about Ling Wufeng's death. It was really difficult for outsiders to surround and kill him. After all, heavenly deities were extremely sensitive to danger. Even if celestials wanted to surround and kill him, they would not be able to block his senses, unless it was a trap set by someone close to him. If Ling Shoren was in danger, Ling Wufeng would intervene even if he sensed that something was amiss. Lu Yurong frowned. Do you want me to check? Forget it. Chu Li sighed. Since we've already ascended to the Grandmaster's boundary, if Ling Shoren really did it, Ling Wufeng will come after him when we reach the Grandmaster's boundary. He won't be able to escape. Lu Yurong said, that will be many years in the future. A heavenly deity had been in this world for 60 years. Who could remember the things that happened after several decades? No matter how deep the hatred was, it had already pretty much dissipated. Moreover, this was between father and son. Chu Li said, this is a bad start. The Grandmasters won't just stand by and watch, will they? The realm beyond Avalon might not necessarily care so much. Lu Yurong shook her head and said, let's just pretend we don't know anything about this. If we really dig it out, he will definitely take revenge crazily. Besides, this is just a guess. That's the only way. Chu Li nodded. Will they go against the imperial residence of King An next? Based on my understanding of him, he will definitely continue to attack. Lu Yurong nodded firmly. Chu Li sighed. How troublesome. If it really doesn't work, I'll have to get rid of him. If he dies, the Ji dynasty will be in turmoil. Lu Yurong frowned. Su-an ascended the throne in a hurry? Chu Li thought about it and slowly shook his head. Based on Su-an's current cultivation level, he would not be too strong after becoming an enlightened master. Once an enlightened master became an enlightened master, he would become a public enemy. Without a strong cultivation level, he would really be bullied everywhere. It would be better to not be an enlightened master. Lu Yurong said, then we still have to keep him. Chu Li could only nod. Follow me to Goddess Attraction Mountain. I'm not going to isolated cultivation, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li frowned. The world is in chaos now. Asuras are rampant and there are celestials who do whatever they want. I have the ability to protect myself, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li scoffed. It's not like you don't know how powerful Asuras are. The Asuras from the Grandmasters are even stronger. They can even kill enlightened masters. If I leave, what about the High Duke's public house? Lu Yurong shook her head. Chu Li was tied down by the High Duke's public house and so was she. Chu Li did not force her. All right then. Once you see an Asura appear, call me immediately. Don't try to deal with them by yourself. All right. Lu Yurong nodded helplessly. Chu Li waved his hand as a farewell and disappeared. The next moment, he appeared at Goddess Attraction Mountain. After observing with the omniscient mirror, he found Master Zhou Dunli sitting quietly in the basilica like an old monk. Dong Jianxin sat motionless in front of him. Dong Jianxin was solemn. Chu Li entered the basilica and closed fist saluted. Chu Li, you're here. Zhou Dunli opened his eyes and so did Dong Jianxin. Chu Li came to sit beside them and smiled. Master, why do you have time to come back? Isn't the Grandmasters in a mess? It seems like you know a little, Zhou Dunli said. Chu Li saw his serious expression and smiled. Did something big happen? Zhou Dunli said, Chu Li, I'm going to heaven. Chu Li was startled and shook his head. Master, don't tell me you're going to pass on the position of Hill Master? Yes. Zhou Dunli nodded. Chu Li's smile faded. Did something happen? I need to focus on dealing with the Grandmasters. Zhou Dunli said, the situation is not good. Now that you can go too, there's nothing big here. Chu Li said, it's okay to go both ways, right? It's not the same. Zhou Dunli said, as it is now, I can only use half of my strength in the Grandmasters. Only when I step into the Grandmasters will I be able to use my full strength. Then pass it on to senior brother. Chu Li said, I'm only one step away from becoming an enlightened master. I don't want to be apatheized. You. Zhou Dunli sighed. Jianxin is not suitable for apatheized now. Chu Li said, Master, can you improve senior brother's cultivation level through the enlightenment technique? It's difficult. Zhou Dunli shook his head. Chu Li smiled and said, I've seen many methods of empowerment. For example, the Ji dynasty's crown prince has now become the emperor, and Fa Yuan from the Tempest Temple can greatly increase their cultivation level through empowerment. From there, they can become the imperial emperor and become a god. Enlightenment is not a foolproof method. Zhou Dunli sighed. The risks involved are hard to predict. Not to mention, not everyone can withstand the power of empowerment. You need to be strong enough to receive the empowerment. Humans are like tools. Everyone has a limit. Once the limit is exceeded, the empowerment is equivalent to killing. Chu Li said, Senior brother can't withstand enlightenment? Even if he received enlightenment, it would be difficult for him to reach your level. Zhou Dunli shook his head. Now that we're in chaos, without a strong enough cultivation level, it's easy to become an enlightened master. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Master won't say that I have to become an enlightened master, right? Zhou Dunli nodded slowly. Dong Jin said, "Junior brother, the bigger picture is more important. You can already kill enlightened masters with your current cultivation level. Once you become an enlightened master, how strong will you be? You'll be invincible." Chapter 1758. Chuli was curious. Zhou Dunli said, "The realm beyond heavens will soon announce the realm beyond heaven's order, offering a bounty for the heart of Azura." Chuli raised his eyebrows. "The Grand Master can destroy the heart of Azura?" "No." Zhou Dunli shook his head. "The heart of Azura cannot be destroyed. The only way is to suppress it." Chuli sighed. He did not expect that even the Grand Masters could not do anything to the heart of Azura. Zhou Dunli said, "If you suppress it for 100 years, the heart of Azura will weaken by 1 level. Although it won't kill it, it will greatly damage the Azura's strength. If you suppress it for 200 or even 300 years, the Azura that is reborn will not be able to pose a threat for 100 years. It will take a few hundred years for it to recover its original strength." Chuli nodded. "Any heart of Azura will do? An Azura that can only descend from the realm beyond heaven." Zhou Dunli said, "The original Azuras of this realm were not strong enough to pose a threat, so we ignored them. But most of the hearts of Azura in this world have been taken away by the Grandmasters," Chuli said. He told Zhou Dunli about the Tempest Temple's demon subduing pagoda. Zhou Dunli shook his head and sighed. "Looks like the Azura realm has also made a move. However, these Heart of Azura won't be able to take shape in such a short period of time. They won't affect the battle much." Chuli asked, "What benefits does the Grandmaster's badge have?" "If you act according to the Beyond Heaven decree, the rewards will be unimaginably generous. You will definitely receive great benefits." Zhou Dunli sighed. "If you can become an enlightened master, you will be able to act according to the Beyond Heaven decree. If I'm not an enlightened master, as a grandmaster, I can't follow orders." "Not bad," Zhou Dunli said slowly. "Grandmasters are not qualified to receive the Grandmaster's order. Enlightened masters are bound by the heavenly rules and are also rewarded by the heavenly rules. Grandmasters are not bound by the heavenly rules and are not rewarded. This is how the world works." Chuli shook his head. Zhou Dunli said, "You can already kill Azuras now. Once you become an enlightened master and kill a few more Azuras, the rewards will definitely be beyond your imagination. Once you enter the realm beyond heaven, your starting point will be far higher than others. This is also the fortune of our goddess Attraction Mountain." "Master, I still want to become a god myself." Chuli shook his head and said, "I've persevered for so long and I'm about to succeed. I'm not willing to give up just a little bit more." "Sai Yu." Zhou Dunli looked at him helplessly. He knew Chuli's temperament and knew that it would be difficult to convince him, but he still wanted to try. Dong Jianxin said unhappily, "Junior apprentice brother, if you refuse, could it be that you want me to become a heavenly deity?" "Senior brother, there's nothing bad about becoming an enlightened master. If I become an enlightened master as well, our goddess Attraction Mountain will only have 2 enlightened masters." Chuli chuckled. "I know how capable I am." Dong Jianxin scoffed. "Becoming an enlightened master will only be a burden to goddess Attraction Mountain." Chuli turned to look at Zhou Dunli. "Master, if senior brother becomes an enlightened master, the Golden Dragon? The Golden Dragon will follow me to the realm beyond heaven." Zhou Dunli shook his head and said, "If something happens to Immortal Attraction Mountain, it will return. Master will return as well. This is what makes Immortal Attraction Mountain special." Chuli smiled. "That's right. With Master and the Golden Dragon around, who do we have to be afraid of? Senior brother, feel free to be a god. I don't want to be a burden." Dong Jianxin scoffed. "Besides, you're just thinking good things. With my abilities, even if I receive empowerment, it will be difficult for me to become the Imperial Emperor. There's still you, junior brother. How can I be an enlightened master? Zhou Dunli nodded lightly. Chu Li laughed. So I've become a hindrance. Chu Li. Zhou Dunli sighed. The situation in the realm beyond heaven is urgent. If something goes wrong with Goddess Attraction Mountain, Chu Li hurriedly said, has it come to that? Zhou Dunli nodded slowly. Chu Li frowned. Will the realm beyond heaven be defeated? It's not impossible, Zhou Dunli said. Chu Li asked, if the realm beyond heaven is defeated, what will happen? The realm beyond heaven will be occupied by the Azura boundary. From now on, our world will belong to the Azura boundary. Zhou Dunli's expression was solemn. The Azura will become the masters. There will be no more enlightened masters. Our people will become the slaves of the Azura? Chu Li asked. Zhou Dunli nodded slowly. It will become a paradise for the Azura. Doesn't that mean there's no hope? Dong Jianxin asked. Will we humans never have a chance to make a name for ourselves? Zhou Dunli said slowly, there might be other worlds like this. The Azura need enough murderous intent to increase their cultivation level. That's why humans won't go extinct. Instead, they will prosper. After 100 years, humans will no longer resist because the Azura are usually in human form. No one will know that they are in the crowd. People will think that they are enlightened masters. Chu Li asked, why can't the realm beyond heaven defeat the Azura boundary? The Azura are too difficult to deal with. Although there are many grandmasters, there will always be casualties. On the other hand, the Azura are immortal. Zhou Dunli shook his head. That's why we sent people down to develop manpower to help. Unfortunately, distant water cannot quench present thirst. But don't worry, there won't be any results within 100 years. Chu Li let out a sigh of relief. 100 years was enough for him to become an enlightened master. If he could not advance within 100 years, he would have no hope of becoming an enlightened master. He sighed. It's hard to go against the trend. Master, don't force yourself too much. How's Song Wuji? Song Wuji is now a hero and his reputation is growing. Because his cultivation level is stronger and his murderous nature is stronger. The Azura did not gain an advantage in his hands. Instead, they lost many of them. Zhou Dunli said, so, don't provoke Song Jifan now. If Song Wuji directly descends and kills you, the realm beyond heaven won't say anything. Chu Li frowned. How does the realm beyond heaven maintain the heavenly rules? There's the Elders Guild. Zhou Dunli said, there are a total of 999 elders. If these elders decide that someone is guilty, it will be a violation of the heavenly rules. There are so many things in the world. Can these elders take care of them all? Chu Li asked. Actually, there aren't as many as you think. Zhou Dunli said, how many enlightened masters are there in total? Moreover, most enlightened masters follow the rules and will not violate the heavenly rules. Chu Li nodded slowly. Since he knew that the heavenly rules were strict, he would naturally not act recklessly. Moreover, there were only 8 enlightened masters in this world. It was indeed very worry-free. Chu Li, now it's not about whether you want to be the hill master or not. You have to be the hill master. Zhou Dunli sighed and shook his head. Think about it. If you don't become the hill master, Goddess Attraction Mountain will lose its enlightened master. There are many grandmasters in the Fu dynasty. There is no lack of rising talent. There are also many who surpass Jian Xan. Even if Jian Fan uses the enlightenment technique, he won't be able to reach the peak. Chu Li smiled bitterly. He was forced into a corner and had no other choice. Dong Jian thought, Junior brother, I'm useless as your senior brother. I've implicated you. His face was extremely gloomy. At this moment, he hated himself. Chapter 1759. Chu Li shook his head and said, Senior brother, there's no need to say all this. There's a limit to a person's strength. Everyone has their own fate and qualifications. How can you force it? Zhou Dunli looked at Chu Li and said, "Do you want to see the enlightened master of Goddess Attraction Mountain fall?" Chu Li sighed. "Of course I don't want to. Master, let me think about it." "All right," Zhou Dunli said slowly. "I can still hold on for a while. 1 month. 1 month later, I must ascend to the heavens." Chu Li replied, "All right, I'll strive to become an enlightened master within a month." Hee. Zhou Dunli laughed and shook his head. "You can't rush your journey to becoming an enlightened master. Not only do you have to cultivate all 4 heart techniques, you also have to combine them into one and leave the boundary of Spirit Beast heart techniques to avoid being killed by Supreme Spirit Beast." Chu Li asked curiously, "Master, since the Outland is in a tight spot, what about the Supreme Grade Spirit Beasts? They won't help?" Sigh. Zhou Dunli shook his head. "Spirit Beasts have nothing to do with the Outland." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Zhou Dunli said, "When a Spirit Beast ascends to heaven, it's not the Grand Master's boundary, but the Spirit Beast boundary." Chu Li asked thoughtfully, "What about the Golden Dragon?" "Gold Royals are special," Zhou Dunli said. "It entered the Outland of its own accord. 4 spiritual beasts. The difference between the Outland and the realm of spiritual beasts is like the difference between the countries of this world and the Shirwan Mountain. The Golden Dragon felt wronged staying in the Outland." Chu Li nodded slowly. "Can't we ask for help from the Spirit Beast realm?" "I won't ask for help unless it's absolutely necessary." Zhou Dunli shook his head. "Furthermore, Spirit Beasts look down on humans. In their eyes, our fight with the Asuras is like a fight between ants. It's not worth mentioning, and they're too lazy to interfere. After all, no one dares to provoke them. I heard that once you reach the great heaven god's boundary, you'll be able to fight against Spirit Beasts." Chu Li asked. Zhou Dunli laughed involuntarily. "That's not bad, but the great heaven god is countless times more difficult than the gods of this world. Right now, the sky beyond heaven does not have the great heaven god, otherwise, it would not have suffered such a great loss from the Asura. Not only is the great heaven god comparable to a supreme rank spiritual beast, it can also destroy the Asura." Chu Li asked, "If that's the case, does that mean that a supreme rank spirit beast can destroy Asura?" "Yes." Zhou Dunli nodded slowly. Chu Li was deep in thought. Zhou Dunli asked, "You want the Golden Dragon to deal with the Asura?" Chu Li asked, "Can't I? The Golden Dragon will only protect our immortal attraction mountain and will not participate in the battle of the Asura." Zhou Dunli shook his head and said, "This is the oath it made back then. Can't be violated, so you should just give up." Chu Li sighed. "In that case, we can only hope that the Asuras are blind and invade Goddess Attraction Mountain." "Asuras are not as stupid as humans," Zhou Dunli scoffed. "They all know of the existence of the Golden Dragon, so they won't come to Goddess Attraction Mountain." Chu Li muttered, "If I can get the help of a supreme grade spirit beast, hee." Zhou Dunli laughed again. "Supreme spirit beasts don't care about humans at all. You can befriend the Azure Dragon, but you can't befriend a supreme spirit beast." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "I'm just thinking about it." "Go do what you need to do. Don't forget about it for a month." Zhou Dunli snorted. Chu Li smiled. "Understood." Chu Li took the Sky Killer sword. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw that Shao Qi and Shao Shi were advancing by leaps and bounds. Their cultivation was in a good state, so he did not disturb them. Goddess Attraction Mountain was now considered a pure land. With the Golden Dragon's protection, there was no need to worry about Immortals and Asura's attacks. He was very relieved that they were here. As for what the Asura and Immortals were doing, he had no time to care. The most important thing now was to quickly become an enlightened master and not be apatheized. Unfortunately, although senior brother Dong Jianxin's aptitude was good, he was not as good as Fa Yuan and Sun Mingyue. Therefore, he could not increase his strength enough to be apatheized. If he was at Li Meng's level, he could help, but at Dong Jianxin's level, his help was minimal. Even if Dong Jianxin consumed the wind speed pill and the giant spirit pill, it would not be enough. Did he have to eliminate all the young masters one by one to ensure Dong Jianxin's position as the youth champion? However, if he could not become a god, Dong Jianxin would have no hope because he was the biggest obstacle. Apotheosized would have to depend on him. Holding the Killing Heaven sword, Chu Li stood at the top of the Goddess Attraction Mountain. He looked at the bright moon and was lost in thought. The great enlightened master was only able to fight against a supreme rank spirit beast. This made him extremely desperate. Song Wuji knew the Killing Heaven incantation, and the divine weapon he found in the Outland was even better than the Killing Heaven sword. The power of the Killing Heaven three forms would definitely be stronger than his. If he could not fight against a supreme rank spirit beast, it was even more impossible for him. Knowing that he would definitely lose, did he still want to go to 100,000 Hills to die? However, if he did not go to 100,000 Hills, he would not be able to find the vermilion bird. Without the vermilion bird's help, it would be impossible for him to cultivate the vermilion bird power within a month. It would be impossible for him to become an enlightened master. Did he have to succumb to reality and finally apotheosized? All his hard work would be in vain. It would be a joke. However, once he went to 100,000 Hills, he would only have a slim chance of survival. It all depended on luck. However, he did not believe in luck. He was lucky to be able to escape with his life last time. This time, the spirit tiger would not be fooled again. He would not have good luck again. As a grandmaster, fighting against a supreme rank spirit beast was like an innate master fighting against an enlightened master. The ending was predestined. Even with the heaven-slaughtering scripture, there was no chance of winning. Under such circumstances, going to 100,000 Hills was no different from suicide. His thoughts were tumbling and he was struggling. He suddenly felt that death was approaching, as if it was within his reach. If he were to die in the mouth of the spirit tiger this time, he might not even be able to ascend to the Grandmaster's boundary. He might even vanish into thin air and disappear from the world. Thinking of this, even though he had seen through life and death and understood the scripture of life and death, he still felt a sense of nostalgia. In a flash, he appeared in his own courtyard in the public house. Looking at the familiar surroundings in his courtyard, he felt that life was precious and beautiful. It was a pity that he was about to take a step forward, and he would have to bury these beautiful memories. Master! Shui approached him gracefully, bringing with her a faint fragrance. This refreshing fragrance was very familiar to him. However, he usually ignored it and did not pay attention to it. Today, he realized that the fragrance on her body was refreshing. Master! Shui saw that his expression was strange and called out softly. Chu Li sighed. Shui, have you ever thought about getting married? No. Shui shook her head decisively. I want to stay by your side and not get married. Chu Li laughed. Silly girl, when you grow up, you will still have to get married. There's nothing good about getting married, Shui said softly. Life now is very fulfilling and beautiful. Chu Li said, when you get older, your thoughts will change. If there's someone you like, it's better to get married as soon as possible. Master, what's wrong? Shui frowned and stared at him. Chu Li waved his hand and said, Go get a pen and paper. Shui quickly brought the pen and paper. Chu Li wrote a letter in one breath. After blowing it dry, he stuffed it into the envelope and passed it to Shui. If I don't come back in a month, give it to Madam. Chapter 1760. Chu Li waved his hand. Don't even think about it. Gather? Zhan Yang Tuoshweling said, Master, you're going to take the risk again. Why do you have to do this? You've already reached such a level where even enlightened masters are no match for you. Why do you still want to take the risk? Cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you'll fall behind. If you want to improve further, you can only take risks. Chu Li shook his head. Xueling, you're a smart girl. You should understand this. Master, even if you don't advance now, you won't be able to retreat too far. How many people in this world are your match? Xueling said, Tang Su from the Fu dynasty? Sun Mingyue from Dali, or Monk Lun Ming from the Reincarnation Temple? Chu Li said, the world is in chaos now. Not only are there enlightened masters, but there are also celestial beings and asuras descending from the outland. If I want to be invincible, I'll have to work hard to cultivate. There's no other way. If I don't work hard, how can I protect the High Duke's public house? But, Xueling frowned and said, even so, there's no need to take such a big risk. To live is to take risk. Every day there are countless dangers that can kill a person. Even sitting at home, a brick might fall from the sky and smash you to death. Chu Li smiled. So, you should just relax. Xue remained unmoved. If that was really the case, the young master would not have written such an unusual letter. This was equivalent to his last words, a sign of his will to live and die. Chu Li said, Xueling, are my words no longer useful now? Gongzi. Xueling said angrily, can't you think more about the third lady and cherish your life more? Guyback? Relieving stress? Sturdy bones Australian rice judge cattle? Grindstone? Pursing lips? Tui Chien? Kiss and play? Huan Bei? Huang Mo and Huan Bai and Lu Bai and Lu Bai and Lu Bai. Huan Bei, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai. He puffed up his cheeks and vomited. All right. The more Xueling listened, the more she could not bear to listen. She frowned and said, Master, this is it. Chu Li waved his hand. He did not want to listen to her any more. Xueling said in annoyance, do you really want to be stubborn? Chu Li nodded. I have to. Then I'll tell Third Mississippi, Xueling scoffed and said. Back then, Third Lady had told me that you would return to your old ways. If that's the case, you should inform her. Chu Li was stunned for a moment before he smiled. Did she really say that? Of course, Xueling replied. Chu Li shook his head and said, even if she comes back, she'll still say yes to me in the end. It's settled. He did not wait for Xueling to react and suddenly disappeared. Master! Xueling extended her hand and called out. But Chu Li had already disappeared. Xueling stomped her feet unwillingly. She was anxious and flustered. What if she really could not make it back? Just thinking about it made her tremble in fear. She could not suppress the chill in her heart. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the ice pool of the 100,000 Hills. When he appeared in the ice pool, Sun Mingyue and Lu Yurong's faces flashed across his mind. He had not properly bid them farewell. He shook his head and sighed. If he was really going to disappear, what was the point of saying goodbye? His hand pressed on the heaven-killing sword. The heaven-killing incantation had already been activated. Suddenly, it was as if he and the sword had become one. The sword was him and he was the sword. He became indestructible and unbreakable. The sword was him. It was as if the sword had become a part of his body. He could command it at will and its power was infinite. It felt like a sword could cut through the galaxy, the sky, and all the masters of the Grandmaster. This feeling was so clear and real that he almost believed it. Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture automatically activated and dissolved this strange confidence. His body and mind returned to calmness like a sword back in its scabbard. Then, he looked around. He stood beside the ice pool for a long time. His whole body was on guard. He activated the heaven-murdering scripture. Although he did not use his sword, and did not use the heaven-murdering 3 forms, which did not consume his lifespan, it consumed a lot of his inner energy. When the heaven-murdering scripture did not use the heaven-murdering 3 forms, it used inner energy. Moreover, it consumed a lot of inner energy and was extremely fast. After a while, he actually felt empty. If this went on, he would collapse before his opponent came out. He could not help but recall the time when he fought with Song Jifan. Song Jifan's inner energy was really strong. At that time, he did not seem to be unable to withstand the consumption of inner energy. It was obviously the effect of the ageless longevity technique. When he thought of the ageless longevity technique devouring others, he could not help but feel disgusted. After a long time, there was still no movement around. The spirit tiger did not appear. There was only a gentle breeze mixed with the chill of the ice peaks. Some of the ice peaks around him were destroyed by the little vermilion bird. There were still some left, but after a while they gradually recovered. The ice peaks stood up one by one. Chuli was secretly amazed. The 100,000 hills were really amazing. He finally confirmed that the spirit tiger did not appear. It seemed like it did not sense him, but it was more likely that it did sense him but did not care. The spirit tiger's sensitivity was definitely beyond his imagination. He originally came with the intention of dying to cultivate to become an enlightened master and not to be apatheized. He did not expect the outcome to be like this. The spirit tiger did not chase after him as he expected. It was too lazy to care about him. He chuckled and shook his head to look at a little sparrow. The little sparrow was standing on a rock on the snowy peak. It stared at him with its clear eyes. Chuli recognized it at first glance. It was the little vermilion bird. He was a little curious. The little vermilion bird still came. Could it be that it had not given up? When he saw the little vermilion bird, he was instantly filled with eagerness. If the little vermilion bird could help him cultivate, he would definitely be able to cultivate the vermilion bird power quickly and become an enlightened master within a month. Although it was a little presumptuous, it was the only way. There was no other way. Why are you here? Chuli waved his hand as a greeting to the little vermilion bird. The little vermilion bird turned its head away and scoffed. Chuli smiled. Are you in trouble and need my help? Humph. The little vermilion bird's voice rang in his mind. Chuli said, if that's the case, then it's true. Humph. The little vermilion bird's crisp voice rang again. Chuli smiled. Since there's something you need, tell me. I'll try my best. I don't need your help. The little vermilion bird scoffed again. Chuli said, you really don't need it? I don't need it. The little vermilion bird turned its head far away. Chuli was secretly amused. Although the little vermilion bird had lived far longer than him, it had less experience and lived in the 100,000 hills, so it did not lose its innocence. It stayed here and waited for him. It could not defeat him, so it would not ask for trouble. Of course, it would ask for his help, but she could not bring herself to do it. He laughed to himself but did not show it. He fist saluted. If that's the case, I'll take my leave. Roar! Suddenly, a roar was heard, shaking his soul. His body froze and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He slowly turned around and saw two spirit tigers standing in the void. One was big and one was small. Their silver-white fur moved even though there was no wind and light rolled around them. The two spirit tigers stood in the void and looked at Chuli quietly. Their eyes were cold and emotionless, as if they were looking at a dead man. Chuli pressed his hand on the heaven-killing sword. P.S. Update complete. Chapter 1761. As soon as he pressed his hand on the heaven-killing sword, his aura changed instantly. It became sturdy and heavy like a treasured sword that could be unsheathed at any time. His entire body tensed up as the heaven-killing technique circulated continuously. His body became stronger, but he was not in a hurry to attack. This was a moment of life and death. If he was not careful, he would not be able to see the sun tomorrow nor the sun in the future. The two spirit tigers looked at him quietly and were indifferent to his expression. Chuli's body tensed up as he felt the calm before the storm. It was very likely that a thunderous attack would come the next moment. Roar! The male spirit tiger suddenly let out a long roar. Chu shuddered as he tightened his grip on his sword. His veins popped up. The roar shook his soul. If it was not for his strong soul, he would have fainted. Roar! The petite female spirit tiger suddenly let out a soft roar. The male spirit tiger's gaze softened and he no longer looked at Chu coldly. Chu secretly sighed in relief. He had the sharpest senses and immediately felt that the male spirit tiger's murderous intent was gone. Instead, he was able to speak properly. "You sly brat!" A majestic voice rang in his mind and the void in his mind trembled. Chu smiled. "Sorry for the embarrassment. You're quite capable to be able to fool me," the male spirit tiger said slowly. "You have two choices now. Either you die or you live." "I choose death," Chu said without hesitation. Roar! The male spirit tiger let out a furious roar. Chu's mind trembled again, as if it was about to collapse. Chu looked at him without changing his expression. "I don't want to live. If you really force me to do something I don't want to do, then I can only die." "Humph, you're such a coward and yet you're still so stubborn." The male spirit tiger laughed coldly. "The little one from before isn't healthy and needs your help." Chu understood immediately. Why did they lose their murderous intent? It was because they needed to use him. There was something wrong with the little spirit tiger. Chu said seriously, "I definitely didn't do anything to it." "Of course." The male spirit tiger scoffed. "If you did anything, you wouldn't be able to live until now." "All right, I will help it." Chu nodded. The male spirit tiger glared at him in disdain. The female spirit tiger turned around and disappeared. In the next moment, she appeared with a small spirit tiger in her mouth. The small spirit tiger was only the size of a puppy, and it was extremely thin. Its eyes were lifeless, and it looked like it could die at any moment. Chu's heart ached at the sight of it. After all, it was raised by him, so he had feelings for it. Thus, he activated the Imperial Tiger technique, and his aura surged out. Although the little spiritual tiger was weak, it was talented and had sharp senses. It immediately sensed the aura of the art of the Imperial Tiger and struggled. The female spiritual tiger gently placed it on the ground. The spirit tiger stumbled over to Chu. Chu reached out and picked it up. Immediately, the tiger taming technique flowed into its body. It whimpered and closed its eyes in comfort. As the aura of the art of the Imperial Tiger circulated, the little spirit tiger grew stronger at a visible rate. Chu's perfected aura of the tiger taming technique was no different from a spirit medicine. Moreover, it was a spirit medicine that was most suitable for it. Its body greedily absorbed the aura of the tiger taming technique. The two spirit tigers suddenly disappeared. Chu was stunned. Could it be that they had given up on the spirit tiger and wanted to give it to him? As soon as the thought crossed his mind, he immediately rejected it. He knew that it was just a dream. The spirit tigers were so proud, how could they give the spirit tiger to him? They only treated him like a nanny. Thinking of this, he could not help but laugh bitterly. His dignity was worthless in front of the spirit tigers. He had already adjusted his mentality. He was not strong enough, so he could only admit defeat. He could not just ignore the spirit tiger and fight the two spirit tigers, right? That was not worth it, and there was still the little vermilion bird beside him. The little vermilion bird was his hope. As long as it could help him, there was hope that it could become an enlightened master within a month. The spirit tiger snuggled in his arms and fell asleep. Seeing that it was sleeping peacefully and deeply, Chu could not help but smile. He looked up at the little vermilion bird. "You haven't left yet?" The little vermilion bird scoffed. "If you want to leave, then leave. If you want to stay, then stay." Chu smiled. "Do you need my help?" "Humph, you have cultivated the heart technique of the spirit beast sect. You must know how to heal, right?" The little vermilion bird finally spoke. Chu nodded. "Of course." He knew that the little vermilion bird was talking about the injuries of spirit beasts. The heart technique of the spirit beast sect was very effective in healing injuries of spirit beasts. It was even more effective than the spirit herbs and spirit fruits from the 100,000 hills. For spirit beasts, the spirit beast heart technique's most basic function was to strengthen their vitality and to defend against everything. The little vermilion bird scoffed. I have a friend who is injured. Come over and help it. Chu chuckled. You're not willing? The little vermilion bird's voice became louder in his mind. Chu replied, Of course I can help, but, I will give you a miracle fruit as a reward. The little vermilion bird said in disdain. Chu shook his head. I don't want the miracle fruit. You really don't want it? The little vermilion bird asked. A miracle fruit that will make you as light as a swallow. You can even fly after eating it. Chu replied, I don't want it. It's fine if you don't want it. You will regret it. The little vermilion bird said in disdain. Chu said, I will help your friend and you will help me. Let's make a fair exchange. Help you with what? The little vermilion bird scoffed. Chu smiled. Help me cultivate the vermilion bird power technique. Dream on. The little vermilion bird shouted. Chu looked at it with a smile and did not say anything. The little vermilion bird scoffed. You want me to help you cultivate the vermilion bird power technique? You're dreaming. Let me tell you, I hate the disciples of the spirit beast sect the most. They deserve to die. Chu said, but the spirit beast sect's heart technique can also save spirit beasts. But the spirit beast sect deserves to die. The little vermilion bird scoffed. Chu shook his head and laughed. If you don't agree, then forget it. I still have to take care of the spirit tiger. Then can you save my friend? The little vermilion bird scoffed. Chu said, let's go take a look first. If it can be saved, then we'll trade. If it can't, then forget it. Okay. The little vermilion bird agreed. The appearance of the two spirit tigers earlier gave the little vermilion bird a lot of confidence. That was why it reluctantly agreed. Let's go. The little vermilion bird scoffed. It shot out like a ray of white light. Chu carried the little spirit tiger and followed behind it like a shadow. In the blink of an eye, they were 100 miles away. Chu followed it into a towering mountain. The peak of the mountain could not be seen. He could only see clouds covering the mountainside. Passing through the clouds, he came to a giant red forest. He did not recognize these giant trees that looked like they were dyed in blood. They were as straight as swords and towered into the clouds. When he looked up, it seemed like he could climb all the way to the outland. He flew up to the crown of a giant tree and saw a vermilion bird the size of a spirit crane. The vermilion bird was white with a hint of red. It was like a piece of white jade that was dyed with a thin layer of cinnabar. It was exceptionally beautiful. It was lying in a giant nest with its head drooping. When it saw Chu, it looked up. Its eyes lit up and it slowly lowered its head. Chu recognized this vermilion bird. It was the one that attacked him with the little vermilion bird. The little vermilion bird stood at the side and stared at Chu. Chapter 1762. The little vermilion bird stared at his face. Noticing his expression and Chu-Li's solemn expression, it snorted in his mind. Can't you save it? Chu-Li looked up at the little vermilion bird. What did you provoke? The black tortoise. The little vermilion bird snorted. Chu-Li nodded slowly and smiled. Looks like we can make a deal. Really? Don't lie to me or I will teach you a lesson and even encourage the spirit tiger to fight you. Just don't forget about the deal. Chu-Li smiled. He switched to the black tortoise power and the cold energy slowly entered the vermilion bird. The vermilion bird's feathers shook as if they were about to stand up, but it held back. It knew that Chu-Li wanted to heal it. It communicated with the little vermilion bird through their eyes without making any sound. As soon as Chu-Li's black tortoise power's aura entered, it quickly encountered the cold aura. Chu Li's black tortoise powers aura entwined with the cold aura, slowly fusing with it. Roar! The little spirit tiger suddenly woke up. It was originally the tiger taming technique that made it feel like it was soaking in a hot spring. Now that it was the black tortoise power, it felt uncomfortable and protested. Chu Li patted its head and comforted it. The little spirit tiger glared at the vermilion bird. It was young but smart. It knew that the vermilion bird was the source of its discomfort. 2 hours later, the chilly energy flowed into Chu Li's body through his hand and circulated twice in his body, slightly improving his black tortoise power. Chu Li let go and smiled. He immediately switched to the tiger taming technique. The little spirit tiger moaned in comfort and closed its eyes again to sleep. The vermilion bird suddenly flapped its wings and disappeared in a flash of white light. The next moment, a clear chirp came from the sky, filled with joy. Chu Li looked at the little vermilion bird. Why did you provoke the black tortoise? He knew that the black tortoise was a rank 1 spirit beast. When the vitality-devouring tortoise reached rank 1, it would become a black tortoise. The little vermilion bird was unhappy. It was the one who provoked us. Can you help me subdue that guy? Chu Li laughed. I don't tame spirit beasts. Hypocritical human. The little vermilion bird snorted. Chu Li said, Our deal is halfway done. Do you want to help me cultivate now? All right, the little vermilion bird said. I'll go find you tomorrow. Chu Li nodded happily and suddenly disappeared. The next morning, the little vermilion bird came as promised. It still looked like a little bird, and Chu Li did not follow it either. Gather? Blue Hai Di Tuan Gui? My emperor is determined to kill Lan. Secular world? Banyan Mauzihi had already cultivated the vermilion bird divine art to the 3rd level, and with the help of the little vermilion bird, his progress increased by leaps and bounds. In just 1 day, he had broken through several times and reached the 6th level. He estimated that at this rate, he would be able to cultivate to perfection in about 10 days. Thinking about reaching consummation in 10 days, he could not help but get excited, imagining a beautiful scene. He didn't know if it would be because of the lack of mental cultivation methods that led to the completion of the 4 spells and prevented him from becoming an enlightened master. However, if he combined the 4 mental cultivation methods together, with the existence of the art of Imperial Tiger, he would almost be able to reach the completion stage. The little vermilion bird kept its promise. Chu Li stayed in the giant red forest for 10 days and cultivated the vermilion bird power to perfection in one go. Within these 10 days, the little vermilion bird's strength also increased by leaps and bounds. However, the difference between first rank and supreme rank was like the difference between a grandmaster and an enlightened master. It was too difficult to take the last step, and the difference was huge. Even if the little vermilion bird's strength increased by leaps and bounds, it was still miles away from being a supreme rank spirit beast. However, to the vermilion bird, it was still young and not considered an adult, but its current strength was already superior to its peers. Although the little vermilion bird had a look of disdain and helplessness, as if helping him cultivate was a grievance, it was secretly happy. To be able to increase its strength so quickly, 10 days was equivalent to 10 years of accumulation, so it was naturally happy. Chu Li's 4 spirit beast heart techniques were completed. The 4 heart techniques that were originally hidden in his body and did not circulate at the same time suddenly began to circulate at the same time, as if they attracted each other and moved together. Before he mastered the vermilion bird divine art, he was able to circulate 2 spirit beast heart techniques because his soul was strong, allowing him to multitask. However, now that he was able to circulate 4 heart techniques at the same time, he only needed to concentrate and didn't need to divide his attention into 4. He could not help but sigh. As expected, they complemented each other. This further proved that the 4 spirit beast heart techniques could help one become an enlightened master. The 4 heart techniques circulated slowly, faintly showing signs of merging with each other. However, he suddenly noticed something strange, and a sense of regret welled up in his heart. He immediately understood that this regret came from the Black Tortoise Power and Dragon Taming Technique. The Black Tortoise Power and Dragon Taming Technique were not complete and were still lacking some maturity. The Dragon Taming Technique was the most lacking, perhaps about 3 levels short. The Black Tortoise Power was still fine, only missing 2 levels, while the Vermilion Bird Power and Tiger Taming Technique were complete. Such a regret had broken the balance of the 4-heart technique. Once the balance was broken, the inner energy was in chaos, forcing him to stop. He frowned and pondered deeply. He knew that there was only a single path, and that was to fuse these 4 mental cultivation techniques into one and attain a level where they were completely one. Only then would he be able to step into the heavenly God realm in one go and not be feared by the transcendent rank spirit beast. He was also worried that even if he merged the 4 heart techniques, he might not be able to hide it from supreme rank spirit beast. This was just a small trick, not worth mentioning in front of supreme rank spirit beast. Whether or not they would be calculative would depend on their decision. Moreover, it was not easy to merge the 4 heart techniques into one. It required a lot of effort and time. The Dragon Taming Technique, Tiger Taming Technique, and Black Tortoise Power were merged. At first, he thought that it was fine, but now that the 4 heart techniques were completed, he knew that he had gone astray and needed to start all over again. However, what he lacked the most was time. There were only 20 days left. If he could not become an enlightened master in 20 days, he could only accept the apotheosis, and all his previous efforts would be wasted. In the backyard of the Ren public house, Lu Yurong frowned as she looked at Ling Feng. Ling Feng was dressed in a green robe, his handsome face was full of vigor. He said loudly, "Elder cousin sister, I've liked you for a long time, but I never had the courage to say it. Now that father is the emperor and I'm the only prince, the crown prince and emperor will be mine in the future." Ling Feng, your thoughts are too optimistic. Lu Yurong shook her head. Once His Majesty becomes the emperor, there will be 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. Soon, more princes will be born. They are so much younger than me, how can their martial arts catch up to mine? Ling Feng proudly took a step forward and said, "Just marry me. I know what happened between you and Chu Li is fake." "Who told you it's fake?" Lu Yurong said lightly. "It's real." "Impossible." Ling Feng scoffed. "Elder cousin sister, you are so proud, how can you like Chu Li? Which part of me can't compare to Chu Li? In terms of family background, he was just a servant, very lowly." Lu Yurong's face darkened and she stared at him coldly. Ling Feng reached out his hand to grab Lu Yurong's hand. Lu Yurong swung her hand and gave him a slap. Slap. Ling Feng's face was slapped, and a palm print instantly appeared. Chapter 1763. Lu Yurong hit him with ease, not showing any mercy just because he was a prince. She did not only slap Ling Feng once or twice. She did it smoothly and without hesitation. Ling Feng covered his face and cried. His tears flowed uncontrollably. Ling Feng covered his face and glared at Lu Yurong. "I'm a prince now. How dare you hit me?" "I'm hitting you. You're full of nonsense. Get out of my sight," Lu Yurong said coldly. Ling Feng shouted, "Aren't you afraid of bringing trouble to the Ren public house?" Lu Yurong squinted her eyes and said, "You've grown up. How dare you threaten me? I'm not like before. I'm a prince now." Ling Feng clenched his teeth. "Who is a prince? Who does a prince think he is? Shut up, I don't want to listen to you anymore. Get lost right now, or I'll hit you again." Lu Yurong waved her hand in annoyance, her face was filled with impatience. "I'd like to see if you dare to hit me again." Ling Feng glared at her. Slap. Lu Yurong waved her hand and slapped him again. Ling Feng tumbled away. There was blood at the corner of his mouth, and his teeth began to loosen. He widened his eyes in disbelief and glared at Lu Yurong. You really hit me? You even hit me so hard? If you don't shut up, I'll cripple you. Lu Yurong waved her hand. Ling Feng glared at her. You don't want to be with me anymore? Of course. Lu Yurong looked disgusted. Are you going to get out or not? Fine. Ling Feng took a deep breath. Don't regret this. Regret? Lu Yurong chuckled and shook her head. As a prince, you harbor evil intentions towards a married woman. How dare you show your face in public? You've known me since I was young. If I can't have something, I'd rather destroy it than let someone else have it. Ling Feng gritted his teeth and said slowly. The corner of his mouth twitched. After his teeth loosened, it hurt when he bit down hard. Lu Yurong chuckled. Yes, you're a natural-born bad guy with an evil heart. If His Majesty is wise, he'll get rid of you first to prevent you from hurting him in the future. You? Ling Feng pointed at her. A cold light flashed across his eyes. Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, 3 claps rang out. Lu Yurong's expression changed slightly, but quickly returned to normal. She turned her head and looked 10 meters behind her, 2 meters up in the air. The Emperor, Lung Shoren, was standing in the air with his hands behind his back. He was dressed in a bright yellow robe and looked extremely noble. Lu Yurong said lightly, What brings you here, Your Majesty? Lung Shoren pointed at Ling Feng and shook his head. Feng is a prince after all. If you attack him like this, aren't you overstepping your boundaries? If it were someone else, I would have killed him right away. Would I have shown mercy? Lu Yurong said calmly, Don't tell me Your Majesty is standing up for Ling Feng? As our only bloodline, he naturally needs to be protected. Ling Shoren nodded slightly. You know that as an enlightened realm god, there are many rules to follow. One of them is that you can't attack anyone who isn't an enlightened realm god. And then? Lu Yurong scoffed. Ling Shoren said, however, there is an exception. If the other party hurts the bloodline of the enlightened master can intervene. Your Majesty wants to kill me? Lu Yurong asked calmly. Ling Shoren nodded slowly. Yurong, you can't blame me for this. You should know that. Yes. Lu Yurong chuckled and looked at him with disdain. Because I know too much about Your Majesty. I know too many secrets. Now that Your Majesty has ascended the throne, you want to get rid of me. You are indeed Yurong. You are so smart. Ling Shoren nodded and sighed. Yurong, I actually gave you a chance. Sadly, you didn't cherish it. It really pained me. Your Majesty, why do you have to be so fake? It's not like I don't know you. Lu Yurong shook her head and chuckled. Her snow-white lips curled into a mocking smile. Sigh, that's true. Ling Shoren laughed. He shook his head and sighed. Yurong, you are thinking about Chuli, right? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. Your Majesty, aren't you afraid that he would kill you and get rid of you? By that time, the throne of the Ling family would be on the verge of collapse. The 12 High Dukes' public houses might choose another successor. Yurong, do you think that I am such an unreliable person? Ling Shoren chuckled. He hasn't been here for a while, right? To be honest, he is too busy right now. Even if you ask him for help, he won't be able to come because something big happened at Goddess Attraction Mountain. He can't take care of you. What happened? Lu Yurong frowned. Ling Shoren said, Zhou Dunli is about to ascend Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chuli is probably preparing to take over as an enlightened master. At this crucial moment, he needs to focus and ignore everything else. He needs to improve his cultivation level so that the position of enlightened master doesn't fall outside of Goddess Attraction Mountain. He is even receiving the enlightenment technique. Your Majesty, you have thought it through, Lu Yurong said. I am impressed. I am still inferior to you in this aspect. Unfortunately, Yurong and I are not the same kind of person. You can't be used by me. What a shame. Ling Shoren shook his head. He was indeed regretful. A genius like Lu Yurong could hardly be seen again. If she died, there would be one less. Lu Yurong said, "Your Majesty, why waste your breath? Just do it." "Yurong, why don't you think about it?" Ling Shoren said. "It's not too late to regret it. Come and help me. I can give you more than your nominal husband, Chu Li." Lu Yurong said coldly, "If the Fu dynasty's prince comes to propose again, your Majesty will be the first to agree, right?" "That's right." Ling Shoren nodded with difficulty. He could not deny this, or else he would be mocked by Lu Yurong. The Fu dynasty was too powerful. Even as an enlightened master, he could only submit to Tang Su's pressure. He had no other choice, just like his father's choice back then. Lu Yurong said, "Your Majesty can't protect me, but Chu Li can. This is where the difference lies. So, Your Majesty, why do you have to argue and humiliate yourself?" Alright. Ling Shoren's nameless karmic fire burned. Lu Yurong had undoubtedly exposed his wounds. He could not control himself. "Then I'll send you to heaven." Ling Shoren took a deep breath and scoffed coldly. The enlightened master's field spread out. Ling Feng quickly retreated, and even ran out of the backyard. He could not bear the pressure of the enlightened master's field. Lu Yurong's clothes were as white as snow. Her sleeves fluttered as she quietly looked at Ling Shoren. A gigantic elusive ninth heaven fairy slowly appeared in the void above her. Her face was her face. One could vaguely see her expression. It was as cold as ice. There was no human emotion in her eyes. Ling Shoren frowned. Lu Yurong was much stronger than before. He was about to make a move, but Lu Yurong had already struck. A ray of light fell from the sky. It condensed into a palm behind Ling Shoren and hit his back without giving him a chance to react. Bam! Ling Shoren was sent flying. He was in disbelief. He turned his head to look at the elusive ninth heaven fairy in the void. The elusive ninth heaven fairy stared at him without moving. He felt like a mouse being stared at by a big cat. His hair stood on end. He wanted to run away. This elusive ninth heaven fairy was really strange. Lu Yurong hit him again. The elusive ninth heaven fairy seemed to take a step forward. Ling Shoren's back was hit and he was sent flying again. Chapter 1764. Lu Yurong seemed to have changed into a different person. She looked at him calmly and struck again. Ling Shoren disappeared in a flash and appeared behind Lu Yurong. His right fist was aimed at Lu Yurong's back. Bam! Ling Shoren's back was hit again. Lu Yurong dodged and Ling Shoren flew past her. Shaking her head, Lu Yurong struck again. Bam, 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 bam. Ling Shoren was no longer an enlightened master. He was hit again and again. He was out of breath and had no strength to fight back. Just as he was about to gather energy to strike again, Lu Yurong's Empyrean fairy palm arrived. The Empyrean fairy palm was of extreme een and extreme coldness. Even though Ling Shoren was an enlightened master, he was still hit until he kept spitting out blood. The extreme een and extreme coldness of the palm was unimaginably strong and pure. It was like a knife stirring up his internal organs. Ling Shoren roared. He felt wrong. He thought that without Chu Li, it would be easy for him to defeat Lu Yurong. He did not expect Lu Yurong to be so powerful that she could defeat an enlightened master. What was wrong with this world? The enlightened master who was unreachable had become like this. Even a genius could defeat an enlightened master. Being an enlightened master was boring. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Lu Yurong's face was expressionless. She continued to strike. Ling Shoren roared again, "Men!" Meng Xiaoqi suddenly appeared in the air and drew his blade. The blade was as black as ink. The moment it was drawn, it was already near Lu Yurong's body. Lu Yurong's white robe fluttered like the sail of a sailboat. She took the opportunity to move away and barely avoided the blade. Ling Shoren caught his breath and immediately pounced on her. He disregarded the injuries on his internal organs and continued to attack. Lu Yurong frowned. Meng Xiaoqi's blade was indeed strange. With one strike, her mind was trapped and she could not escape. She was trapped deeper and deeper. The power of the Empyrean fairy palm was reduced by half. Coupled with Ling Shoren's help, it was even more difficult for her. Without Meng Xiaoqi restraining her, she could easily beat up Ling Shoren, beating him to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. However, at this time, Ling Shoren's enlightened master power was finally unleashed. His speed was extraordinarily fast, and his power was ferocious. As time passed, it became more and more difficult for her. The fairy of the 9 heavens in the void became blurry, as if she was about to disappear. Meng Xiaoqi's demonic blade technique was useless in front of Chu Li, but it was indeed powerful in front of others. This was the foundation of the demonic blade sect in ancient times. In addition to Meng Xiaoqi's status as a celestial being, it formed an absolute suppression of the realm. Ding! Ling Shoren suddenly punched Lu Yurong in the chest, making a crisp ding sound. Lu Yurong was instantly energized. The jade pendant that had been hidden in front of her chest suddenly emitted a light stream, making her feel refreshed. The mysterious fairy of Jiutian suddenly became clear and immediately slapped the black knife with her palm. Bang! Lu Yurong was sent flying. Her mind went blank again in the air. The jade pendant once again sent a clear stream of energy to keep her awake. She faced Ling Shoren, who was chasing after her with a light palm. Bang! Ling Shoren was sent flying again. Chi! Meng Xiaoqi's body suddenly shone like a blazing sun, making people not dare to look at him directly. He then slashed with his knife. Lu Yurong waved both her palms, trying to break the knife. When she saw Meng Xiaoqi like this, she knew that he had broken the celestial being seal, and it was a full-force attack. It was also the strongest attack she had to face. If she could block this attack, she would be able to survive. Huh! She suddenly looked down at her chest. A thin knife mark appeared in the middle of her chest. There seemed to be a black line on her white clothes, from the middle of her chest to her dantian. It was a straight black line. She felt that something was wrong, but she did not feel anything else. It was like a prank. Just as she was about to attack, she suddenly felt an extremely cold energy penetrating her chest. It was like a knife stabbing into her body, trying to split her body in half. The intense pain almost made her faint. She gritted her teeth and channeled the Empyrean fairy power with all her might to resist this strange energy, not letting her body be split in half. Bang! Ling Shoren finally found an opportunity and punched her hard in the back. Lu Yurong was only sent flying, she was not hurt. The full power of the Empyrean fairy power made her body unusually hard. An enlightened master's punch could not break through her defense. The Empyrean fairy above her suddenly made a mudra, then bent her left finger and flicked it at Meng Xiaoqi. Meng Xiaoqi swung his knife. Bang! He was sent flying, desperately waving his knife in the air, as if he was fighting against an invisible force. Lu Yurong felt a little better and lightly hit Ling Shoren with her palm. Ling Shoren was sent flying again, spitting out blood in the air. He gnashed his teeth in anger, feeling a deep sense of humiliation. The last time he was defeated by Chu Li in a single move, he already had this feeling, but when he thought about how Chu Li could kill enlightened deities, moreover Tang Haotian, defeating him wouldn't be considered strange, and he wouldn't be considered shameful either. At the very least, he managed to escape with his life from Chu Li. But today, he could not defeat Lu Yurong. This was unacceptable. Was he really that weak as an enlightened master? The Empyrean fairy above Lu Yurong flicked her finger again. Meng Xiaoqi kept backing away, his face serious as if he was facing a great enemy. Ling Shoren shouted, "Another one!" Bang! Lu Yurong was sent flying. A burly man appeared where she was just now, his body glowing so bright that no one dared to look at him directly. Lu Yurong gritted her teeth, blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. she said coldly. His Majesty colluded with a celestial, how impressive! Her bloody mouth twitched slightly, her sarcasm was even more irritating to Ling Shoren. Ling Shoren stood in the air, took a deep breath and said, Yurong, you will die today. What else do you have to say? He knew that he could not defeat Lu Yurong, so he did not want to embarrass himself. He originally wanted to take her life himself, to fulfill the fate of the emperor and his subject. He also did not want to use others to kill her. He did not want her to die in the hands of others, he only wanted her to die in his own hand. Unfortunately, things did not always go as planned. He could not fulfill his wish, so he could only ask for help. I have nothing to say. Lu Yurong scoffed. Bang! Meng Xiaoqi suddenly appeared in front of her. His black blade was already close to her snow-white neck. The contrast of the black blade and her snow-white neck made her snow-white and delicate, it was hard to look at. Another burly man who was glowing moved like lightning, appearing behind Lu Yurong in an instant. The two of them attacked at the same time. Lu Yurong was about to dodge, but she suddenly felt a pain in her chest, she could not move. Her previous injury acted up again. She barely avoided the attack on her neck, but she could not avoid the punch on her back. Bang! She was sent flying, spitting out blood in the air. Her face suddenly turned pale. The power of this punch was beyond imagination, stronger than Meng Xiaoqi's blade aura, and 10 times stronger than Ling Shoren's. She secretly shook her head. Even when she was not injured, she was not this celestial's opponent. But this celestial still wanted to sneak up on her, and even joined forces with Ling Shoren and Meng Xiaoqi. The black light flashed and once again landed on her snow-white neck, silently. Chapter 1765. P.S. The 53rd Alliance Leader has been born, Alliance Leader Noctis 1. Ling Shoren's eyes widened, he was both happy and pained. The next moment, Lu Yurong appeared again, but her head was still on her head. Ling Shoren was stunned, the other two were also stunned, they did not expect this to happen. Lu Yurong's movement was too fast, her head flew up but her body could not be seen clearly, it was like a phantom, so it looked like only her head was flying. Meng Xiaoqi and the burly man shot towards Lu Yurong again. Lu Yurong's face looked like it was smeared with gold powder, she became extremely weak, she gritted her teeth and left like a shadow, instantly appearing a mile away. The next moment she suddenly retreated 10 feet. Ling Shoren and the other two suddenly appeared where she was, they suddenly stepped out of the void, as if they had stepped through a door. They disappeared again, the next moment they appeared behind Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong was like a fleeting shadow again, in the blink of an eye, she flew 10 miles away, but suddenly accelerated into the air. Bang! She flew into the air with a dull thud, it was a palm strike on her back. 2 men with dazzling light appeared. They were burly and tall, the light around them was even brighter than the previous celestial beings. They shook their heads, they did not expect Lu Yurong to force them to appear, it was really unexpected. Ling Shoren and the other two stepped out of the void, they saw Lu Yurong fall into a thick pile of weeds, their faces were a little pale. Brother Qi, Brother Mo, Meng Xiaoqi fist saluted, thank you. The two shook their heads, suddenly disappeared into the void. The celestial beings that appeared first also disappeared. Only Meng Xiaoqi and Ling Shoren were left, they looked at the void, then at Lu Yurong who was lying motionless in the grass, they looked at each other and shook their heads, they still underestimated Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong's Empyrean fairy technique was really profound, she could actually escape so quickly after being hit by the celestial beings, they almost failed to catch up and escape. Once she escaped, it would be very difficult to get another chance. Sigh. Ling Shoren shook his head and sighed. He slowly walked to Lu Yurong, looked down at her pale face. What a pity. Little? Clothes? The hill under the old apologies? Coward? Sang? On the pump? Jing Kujihi strode to Lu Yurong's side and slashed down with his sword. Wait! Ling Shoren hurriedly stretched out his hand. Meng Xiaoqi frowned and stopped. The black knife stopped in front of Sun Mingyue's forehead. He turned his head and stared at Ling Shoren. What, are you regretting it? Ling Shoren sighed. Let's leave her corpse intact. After all, she followed me for a while. Meng Xiaoqi sneered, as if she's your woman. Although she is not my woman, she is my most capable subordinate. She is my most trusted subordinate and the woman who knows me the best. Ling Shoren suddenly felt an inexplicable sadness as he looked at Sun Mingyu. Fool, it's not like you don't know that you can revive if you don't cut off your head, Meng Xiaoqi said snappily. Hurry up! Cutting off her head is too much for her, Ling Shoren said. I want to leave her body intact. All right, Meng Xiaoqi said helplessly. You are really wishy-washy, not like an emperor. Since we want to leave her corpse intact, we can only destroy her soul to prevent any chance of resurrection. All right. Ling Shoren nodded lightly. Destroying the soul was better than dying without a complete corpse. Moreover, if the soul dissipates, it would be considered as completely disappearing. It would no longer provoke his own thoughts. Meng Xiaoqi said, Your way of thinking is really strange. Ling Shoren smiled. Meng Xiaoqi slowly slashed and a black light shot towards Lu Yurong. Although Lu Yurong was already dead, her soul had suffered a blow from the deva. It would take a while for her to wake up and leave her body. If the knife went down, her soul would completely disappear. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. Chu Li appeared in front of Lu Yurong and slapped the black knife. Meng Xiaoqi felt as if he was hit by a running elephant and was sent flying. Bang 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 bang! Meng Xiaoqi crashed through 6 trees in one breath and fell to the ground. The black knife had already fallen to the side. Chu Li then slapped Ling Shoren. Ling Shoren wanted to dodge, but he did not have the strength to do so. He could only watch as he was hit in the chest and was sent flying. The scenery in front of him flashed past. Under the pain of his back, he crashed through a few trees and fell beside Meng Xiaoqi. Chu Li looked at Lu Yurong with a deep frown. The jade pendant in front of Lu Yurong's chest was affected by the energy of the demonic knife and unintentionally blocked his senses. The energy of the demonic knife was indeed strange. If it was not for his sudden inspiration, he would not have known that Lu Yurong was in danger. When he looked at Lu Yurong, he already knew that she was no longer breathing and was already dead. He took out the spirit blessing pill and fed it to her. Just as he was about to leave, 3 deva appeared behind him. They were already at their peak state and stood in front of him. Chu Li's face darkened as he looked at them and then at Ling Shoren. So the target was me. Cough 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 cough. Ling Shoren coughed a few times and blood flowed out. He then laughed. Chu Li, you finally came. Chu Li said, Your Majesty, why did you have to go to such lengths to kill me? As long as you are alive, the Ji dynasty will not be at peace. Ling Shoren gritted his teeth and glared at him. Chu Li nodded and said, If that's the case, let's cut the crap and fight. He gently put Lu Yurong down and pressed his hand on the sky killing sword. A dense aura surged around him. These 3 glowing deva gave him great pressure. It was something that the deva from before did not have. They were the strongest deva he had ever seen. It seemed that these deva also hated him very much and plotted to kill him. Ling Shoren hit it off with them and used the relationship between Chu Li and Lu Yurong to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. With the sky-killing sword pressed, the 3 deva shone even brighter. When they killed Lu Yurong earlier, they did not use their full strength. Now they went all out and the light was like the sun. The deva's heavenly field combined and formed a superimposed effect. It was obvious that the 3 were proficient in joint attack technique. The deva's field reached Chu Li's side and immediately split into 2 sides. It could not touch his body. After the sky-killing sword merged with his body, it released a sharp force field like the sky-killing sword and directly cut the deva's field. The weeds and shrubs on the ground were turned into powder by an invisible force. The surrounding trees instantly turned into bare, withered trees. Some even slowly loosened and turned into powder. Chu Li's eyes were like lightning as he coldly stared at the three. "What grudge do you have against me? You deserve to die." A hoarse voice came from the mouth of the Deva in the middle. Then, the three of them turned into 3 rays of light and shot over. Chu Li unsheathed his sword. The sky-killing sword that was activated by the sky-killing technique was simple and plain. When it was unsheathed, it locked the three's bodies. They quickly stopped and with a muffled bang, the three's bodies shone brightly again. They actually broke free from the power of the sky-killing sword and pounced at Chu Li again. Chu Li frowned. He did not expect these 3 to be so powerful. Among all his opponents, other than the spirit tiger, the 3 of them were all extremely strong and far stronger than him. This was a situation of certain death. Chapter 1766. After seeing Yurong's situation, Chu Li's expression was normal, but he was furious and his killing intent was boiling. He had already activated the heaven-killing tactic and condensed 10 years of his lifespan into a sword to kill these 3. However, seeing the strength of these 3, he knew that 10 years of his lifespan was probably not enough. The heaven-killing tactic worked even more crazily, condensing 50 years of lifespan into one strike. Swoosh! The heaven-killing sword turned into a ray of light and disappeared in a flash. Ding! Amidst the continuous clear sound, Chu Li stabbed the celestial in the middle of the 3, but the sound was the sound of metal colliding. The celestial flew out, still making a clear sound in the air. Chu Li frowned and retreated, returning the sword to its scabbard, his hand still pressed on the hilt, and a dense aura surrounded the 3. He stared at the remaining 2 celestial, ignoring the one who flew in the air and hit several trees. The celestial's body made a clear sound, but he used his sword to block the heaven-killing sword. Bang 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 bang! After hitting several pine trees, the celestial fell to the ground, but the light around him did not diminish. He turned over and stood up, pouncing at Chu Li again, obviously not seriously injured. Chu Li ignored him, slowly unsheathing the heaven-killing sword again, targeting the remaining 2 celestial. Bang! The celestial who was hit by the sword suddenly shone brightly, then turned into a ray of light and shot at Chu Li. Chu Li frowned and dodged. This was a suicidal move. He did not expect the celestial to use this move. However, this ray of light turned in the air and caught up with Chu Li again. Faster, before Chu Li could react, it was already in front of him. Chu Li swung his sword. Swoosh! The celestial was split into 2, and the original light disappeared instantly, revealing a man shrouded in light. He staggered and fell to the ground, but it was a burly old man. The power of the heaven-killing sword was demonstrated. Chu Li frowned. This sword used 100 years of his lifespan. The remaining 2 celestial moved forward slowly. When Chu Li swung his sword, the 2 seemed to be locked by an invisible force, their movements difficult and slow. When they were close, Chu Li swung his sword a second time. Another 100 years of lifespan was used. The power of the heaven-killing sword was exerted to the extreme, and the sword light slashed across the 2 celestials' necks. Their heads flew, the light dissipated, and their bodies showed their original form, then staggered a few steps and fell to the ground, motionless. Suddenly, a huge door of light appeared in the sky and slowly opened. The celestial beings who had already shared their corpses flew up one after another and turned into a ray of light that shot toward the divine gate. Then, they stopped in front of the divine gate and turned to look at Chu Li, revealing a deep-seated hatred. Then, they entered the light gate and disappeared. The huge door of light slowly closed and then gradually disappeared. Chu Li watched them disappear without a trace of joy on his face. At this moment, his appearance was completely different. His face was covered in wrinkles, and his hair was as white as silver. His long beard was also snow-white. His body was clearly experiencing difficulties, and he couldn't control it as he wished. The loss of 250 years of lifespan was no different from him living for 250 years. In addition to his original 20 years, he would live for a total of 270 years, almost reaching the limit of 300 years. In this state, he had already passed his prime. Naturally, his body was not as good as when he was young. Good, as expected of Chu Li. Suddenly, a slap was heard. Meng Xiaoqi walked out of thin air and stood 5 meters above the ground. He looked down at Chu Li and Lu Yurong and shook his head. You look like you've used a secret skill. You don't have long to live. Why bother? Chu Li frowned. You're the one who joined forces, aren't you? It was me. Meng Xiaoqi smiled. Do you understand now? Sometimes, martial arts isn't the foundation. Brains are the key. Chu Li nodded. That's true. Then you should be on your way. He unsheathed his sword again. Meng Xiaoqi instantly froze and looked at him in shock. Do you want to die? Although he said that, he was also dodging. However, in front of the Sky Killer sword, his movements were slow and difficult. It was as if every movement required a lot of energy. It was almost impossible to dodge Chu Li's sword. TSS. Before the black blade could be raised, the tip of Chu Li's sword had already slashed across his throat. Instantly, his head flew. Chu Li stood with his sword in his hand. His face was pale and weak, like a candle in the wind. Another 50 years of lifespan was thrown away. Now that he was 320 years old, he was about to enter the grave. He didn't have long to live. He suddenly became magnanimous. He realized that he was not as afraid of death as he imagined. He was not as unwilling to die. This was also the beauty of the life and death scripture. The light door opened in the sky again. Meng Xiaoqi's body turned into a ray of light and entered the light door. Then, the light door disappeared again. This time, it was completely quiet. Chu Li held his sword and frowned at the void, waiting for Ling Shoren to come out and hit him when he was down. However, after waiting for a while, Ling Shoren did not come out. It was obvious that he would not come out. Could it be that he would be merciful and not take advantage of others? That was obviously impossible. Chu Li shook his head. He had already scared Ling Shoren. Even if he was very weak now and was about to die. He let out a long sigh and slowly sat in front of Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong still did not show any signs of waking up. He reached out and pressed on her jade wrist. After a while, he frowned. There was a strange force in Lu Yurong's body that was dissolving the drug's effects, preventing the spirit blessing pill from working. This was the power of the Celestials. Chu Li activated the tiger taming technique and used the energy of the spirit tiger to enter. It was difficult to separate from the Celestials, and he could not kill them in a short time. He sighed to himself. The energy of the spirit tiger was indeed useful. However, it was only an energy after all. It was not the purest energy of the spirit tiger. Therefore, it did not pose much of a threat to these 3 Celestials. Otherwise, he would not have used the Sky Killer scripture and consumed so much of his lifespan. Thinking of this, he pressed on the Sky Killer sword again and activated the Sky Killer scripture. He began to use his lifespan again. After the Sky Killer scripture's inner energy entered her body, it quickly dispelled the power of the Celestials. As time passed, his lifespan decreased bit by bit. He did not have much lifespan left. When the power of the Celestials was completely dispelled, he only had 10 days left to live. He smiled bitterly but did not think of leaving. He could not do nothing to save Lu Yurong and watch her die. After taking another spirit blessing pill, Lu Yurong slowly woke up. She suddenly clenched her hand and was about to make a move. Chu Li said, "It's me." Lu Yurong looked at Chu Li hesitantly. At this time, Chu Li's eyebrows were all white. His face was full of wrinkles. He was already old and could die at any time. His eyes lost their brightness and became cloudy. His aura had lost its strength and became weak. It was as if a gust of wind could blow him over and he would die immediately. You are. Lu Yurong stared at Chu Li hesitantly. She saw Chu Li's shadow in between his brows. Chu Li scoffed, "What do you think?" Lu Yurong frowned, "You? Why are you like this?" "Isn't it because of you?" Chu Li said snappily, "Hurry up and get up." Lu Yurong flipped over and sat up. She gently brushed off the grass and dirt. She frowned and looked at him in confusion. Then, she looked at her surroundings. The celestials around them had all disappeared. All that was left was a mess. "Where are they?" Lu Yurong asked nervously. "They're dead." Chu Li scoffed, "If it wasn't to kill them, they wouldn't look like this." Lu Yurong asked, "Are you okay?" "I still have 10 days to live." Chu Li shook his head. "This is a huge loss. My time is limited. Let's not talk nonsense. We should go back and do our own things. I want to go back and see my wife." "You really only have 10 days to live?" Lu Yurong frowned. "You're heavily injured? Can you cure it?" Chapter 1767. Lu Yurong frowned. "You still can't cure it?" Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong scoffed. "Doesn't that mean I owe you my life? This is a real life, not like before." Chu Li shook his head. "I'm afraid you won't have the chance to return it. In 10 days, I will ascend the heavens and wait for you guys at the Grandmaster's boundary." He was very comfortable with death, and did not find it hard to accept. Fate was such a helpless thing. He had worked so hard for so long, but in the end it was all for naught. He quickly accepted this ending. Fortunately, it was to save Lu Yurong this time. If he had fought with others and died, he would have felt wronged. Those masters who died in his hands would feel wronged. Lu Yurong frowned and stared at him. "Are you telling the truth?" "Of course." Chu Li smiled. "Why would I joke about this?" "But you look like you're joking." Lu Yurong scoffed. She finally believed it, but Chu Li looked too relaxed, as if he was talking about a drink. Chu Li said, "I'll send you back first." "You can go back in your current state?" Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li nodded. "Although I'm a little lacking, I'll be fine." Lu Yurong said, "Then let's go to Goddess Attraction Mountain." "Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Chu Li muttered. "What, I can't go?" Lu Yurong scoffed. She had mixed feelings and did not know what to say. He saved her life but said it so casually, as if it was a small matter and life and death were child's play. Chu Li said, "Madam and Second Lady are over there. If you go, don't worry, I won't argue with Third Lady Xiao." Lu Yurong said impatiently, "Look at the situation, I won't mess around. I'm just afraid." Chu Li was still hesitant. "Why didn't you hesitate at all when you saved her? Now that you're hesitating, you're not a man." Lu Yurong said impatiently, "Don't worry, if Second Lady says anything bad, I'll endure it." Chu Li smiled. Talking to Lu Yurong was refreshing, she could understand everything with just a few words. "Then let's go." Chu Li took a deep breath. He grabbed Lu Yurong's wrist and the two disappeared in a flash. After the two of them disappeared, Leng Shoren slowly appeared. He stared in the direction where the two of them disappeared. After pondering for a moment, he slowly shook his head. He still did not dare to come out and fight Chu Li alone. He had been beaten up by Chu Li, and even though Chu Li looked old and weak, he did not dare to attack him again. He would rather let him go. He looked up at the sky. The divine gate had already disappeared, but he could still vaguely feel its existence. He could imagine the situation on the other side of the divine gate. Meng Xiaoqi and the other 3 tyrannical celestials who were killed must be very sullen. They originally wanted to kill Chu Li, but they never thought that not only would they not be able to kill Chu Li, but they would also be killed. They had thought that even if they couldn't win, they wouldn't be safe. They had never imagined that they would end up like this. Chu Li and Lu Yurong suddenly appeared in their own courtyard on Goddess Attraction Mountain. Dong Jianxin sensed his presence and hurried over. Dong Jianxin's expression changed slightly. She stared at Chu Li and then at Lu Yurong. Goddess Attraction Mountain could not be crossed by others, and only disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain could enter. Moreover, the formation that broke through Goddess Attraction Mountain suddenly appeared, so it must be junior brother Chu Li, no one else. But this old man in front of him looked like he was about to take his last breath. He really did not look like junior brother Chu. Chu Li shook his head and said, "Senior brother, you don't recognize me? Is it really you?" Dong Jianxin frowned and stared at him. Chu Li said, "No one else." "How?" Dong Jianxin hurried forward, wanting to help him up. Chu Li waved his hand and said, "I'm not that weak. Senior brother, is Master here?" Master went up again. Dong Jianxin sighed and smiled at Lu Yurong. "Miss Lu is here. I haven't seen you for a long time." "That's good. I'll go into isolation to heal first," Chu Li said. He did not want to tell Dong Jianxin that he only had 10 days to live, lest he make a fuss. Dong Jianxin said, "This time it's not light." Chu Li nodded and smiled. "It's not light, but it's okay. Master will tell me when he comes back." "Okay." Dong Jianxin nodded. Lu Yurong coughed softly. "You only have," Chu Li interrupted her. "It's okay. It's settled." Dong Jianxin looked at Lu Yurong and then at Chu Li. Lu Yurong opened her mouth to speak but stopped when she saw Chu Li. Dong Jianxin saw this and could only turn and leave with doubts. After all, they were husband and wife. It was not appropriate for him to say anything. It was likely to be a private conversation between husband and wife. Watching Dong Jianxin leave, Lu Yurong frowned. "Why didn't you let your master save you? He is an enlightened master. He must have a way." Chu Li shook his head. "There is no way to become an enlightened master. Lifespan is destiny. It cannot be violated. Otherwise, it would be a violation of the heavenly rules." "Violating the heavenly rules once is nothing, right?" Lu Yurong scoffed. "Look at the situation now." Chu Li shook his head. "I don't want Master to violate the heavenly rules. It's not like there's no hope. There's still a glimmer of hope. The best way is to let your Master ascend to heaven. You take over as an enlightened Master. Once you become an enlightened Master, your lifespan will naturally increase. You will be able to stay in the world for a long time. Then we'll think of a way." Chu Li said, "I want to become an enlightened master within these 10 days. I want to become an enlightened master by myself." 10 days? Lu Yurong sighed. "It seems like you've really gone crazy." "You don't believe me?" Chu Li smiled. "Only when I'm at my limit can I unleash my full potential. I think I can do it." "All right, up to you," Lu Yurong said. "If it doesn't work, I'll accompany you to heaven." Chu Li scoffed. "Then wouldn't I be wasting my energy?" "All right. Tell me first. Can you become an enlightened master?" "There's hope," Chu Li said. He told her about his situation. He trusted Lu Yurong, even if they were not a real couple. Lu Yurong frowned after listening. "You've mastered the heart technique of the 4 major spirit beasts." Really, she did not expect Chu Li to be able to achieve this step without anyone noticing. He was the first person in 1,000 years to be able to do what others could not, and yet he was only 1 step away. Initially, he had plenty of time, but now he only had 10 days. She was a little annoyed. If she had not underestimated Ling Shoren and been more vigilant, she might have been able to avoid this situation. She then shook her head. Ling Shoren was so meticulous that she could not avoid it even if she wanted to. "Let me help you," Lu Yurong said. "Can you trust me?" Chu Li smiled. "What do you think?" "All right. Let's cultivate together," Lu Yurong said. Chu Li hesitated for a moment. Lu Yurong said impatiently, "Don't worry. I'll tell Xiaoqi." Chu Li said, "Madam won't object." "That's good." Lu Yurong said, She was very angry with Chu Li. He was a master, but he was so unmanly in front of Xiaoqi. Chu Li said, "I'll go see Madam first." Lu Yurong waved her hand. Go. I'll go later. Chu Li smiled apologetically and left. Chapter 1768. Chu Li and Lu Yurong sat in a basilica. The basilica was silent. Chu Li recited the 4 spirit beast heart techniques one by one. Lu Yurong listened thoughtfully. She remembered them clearly the first time and did not need to recite them a second time. After a while, Chu Li stopped talking. Lu Yurong closed her eyes and did not move. She turned into a jade statue. Chu Li was as quiet as an old man. The scene where he saw Shao Qi flashed in his mind. She was indeed the woman he liked. Seeing him like this, she was very calm, as if she was only slightly injured. She did not make a fuss and only quietly looked at him with pity. She did not say anything about Lu Yurong's appearance and Chu Li sacrificing his life to save Lu Yurong. It was as if she did not hear anything. Although she did mind, she did not show it. She was very clear. She knew that even if it was someone else, other than Lu Yurong, Chu Li would not stand by and do nothing. This kind of breadth of mind was where his charm lay. If he really did not save her, she would not have liked him so much. Chu Li knew what she was thinking. He was grateful, but also a little guilty. Ever since the two of them got married, they had never had a day of peace. He was always in a perilous situation, and she was also worried and worried more than he was. The person he felt the most was Shao Qi. When he thought about this, he suddenly became spirited. For Shao Qi, he could not go to heaven so easily. He must stay and become an enlightened master. His thoughts turned and the 4 heart techniques appeared in his mind. He activated the heavenly star insight and deduced with the omniscient mirror. The 4 heart techniques gradually began to merge. However, he was missing some important heart technique every time and could not complete it. He was almost there every time. The combination of the heavenly star insight and the omniscient mirror was extremely powerful. As long as he had enough time, he would be able to complete it sooner or later. Unfortunately, time was what he lacked now. Now it was up to Lu Yurong. Her thoughts were different from Chu Li's. They might collide and create sparks, which would speed up the deduction of the heavenly star insight. After a while, Lu Yurong said, "The tiger taming technique and vermilion power are complete, right? But the art of dragon control and the black tortoise divine art are incomplete. This is a little strange." She had originally thought that the art of dragon control would be perfected. After all, Goddess Attraction Mountain could be said to be the best in the world. Never would she have thought that it was not perfected. Instead, it was another mental cultivation method that was perfected. Chu Li asked, "What's so strange about it?" "Very strange." Lu Yurong shook her head. "This feeling is very strange." Chu Li looked at Lu Yurong thoughtfully. After a while, Lu Yurong said, "Is the dragon command spell really incomplete?" Chu Li shook his head. "Something's not right." Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li formulated her words in his mind, and then went over the dragon taming technique twice. He still did not feel that there was a problem. Lu Yurong said, "I think the art of dragon control should be perfected." "How's that possible?" Chu Li laughed. "If it's really perfect, it definitely won't feel like this." "Then, why can the golden dragon protect Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Lu Yurong asked. "It's probably because she's indebted to him for saving her life," Chu Li said. "I heard it was done by the founder." "I still feel that the dragon taming technique is strange." Lu Yurong frowned slightly and said thoughtfully. She had been trying her best to think about the subtleties within, but there was always a layer of paper that blocked her thinking. Chu Li was also thinking hard. He tried his best to jump out of his original line of thought. Lu Yurong suddenly had a flash of inspiration. She clapped her hands. "I got it." Chu Li quickly looked at her. Lu Yurong said, "It seems like the remaining 2 layers are hidden in front. This is similar to my Empyrean fairy power. Back then, I also thought hard but couldn't find anything. In the end, I came to the Empyrean fairy sect. After receiving guidance, I found the other parts of the heart technique. It was originally hidden in there, but if I don't know how to look, I won't be able to find it. Chuli raised his eyebrows. The heavenly star insight technique was activated to its limit. The omniscient mirror kept flashing in the void of his mind as if it was alive. He felt waves of weakness. At this time, he was not as strong as when he was at his peak. He only had 10 days left to live. Although he was not sick yet, he felt that it was about time. In another 2 days, he might be plagued by illness. Even celestials had 5 fades, let alone mortals. To die without illness was a kind of luck. Lu Yurong looked at him anxiously. This was all she could do. It would be difficult to go further. After all, she was not as familiar with it as Chuli. Moreover, she felt that her comprehension was not as good as Chuli's. Chuli just needed new ideas to stimulate him. After a while, Chuli slowly opened his eyes. His originally cloudy eyes became much clearer. His spiritual energy was activated at full speed. It was as if he had become younger. "How is it?" Lu Yurong quickly asked. Chuli slowly nodded and smiled. "It's all thanks to you," Lu Yurong said. "You've understood it?" Chuli said, "That's all. Now that I know this, it's naturally not a problem for me." "What about the rest?" Lu Yurong asked. "What about the black tortoise power?" Chuli smiled. "If all 3 are perfected, the remaining one is easy to complete." "That's good." Lu Yurong let out a long sigh as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Chuli smiled. "If there are no accidents, 10 days is enough for me to become an enlightened master." "Don't be too confident for now. Hurry up and cultivate," Lu Yurong quickly said. "I'll go out first. You focus on cultivating." Chuli nodded. Lu Yurong lightly stood up and silently exited the basilica. Xiao Qi stood outside the basilica. She did not move at all. She calmly looked at the basilica. When she saw Lu Yurong coming out, her cold eyes looked over. Xiao Shi stood beside her. Her expression was also calm. Her cultivation was successful. It was as if there was an invisible breeze blowing around her. It was as if she could float into the heavenly palace at any time. Lu Yurong came to the side of the 2 women and said softly, "Don't worry. He can pass this stage." "Can he really pass it?" Xiao Qi frowned. Lu Yurong smiled. "He looks very confident. Every time he encounters danger, he can turn it into safety. This time should not be an exception. Moreover, at most, he can only ascend to the Grandmaster's boundary. With his ability, even if he enters the Grandmaster's boundary, he will still be a hero." Xiao Qi gently shook her head. "It's not the same. He has offended too many celestials and killed too many Grandmasters. When he reaches the Grandmaster's boundary, it will be better if he is an enlightened master. If he is not, it will be very bad." Xiao Shi said, "Don't worry. He will be fine. I have this feeling." Xiao Qi softly laughed. "Second sister, your premonition can't sense him at all. No matter what, I believe in him. He has a tough life. He will be fine." Xiao Shi said. You are too concerned about gains and losses." Xiao Qi was usually calm and calm. However, when it came to Chuli, she was not her usual self. She was worried about gains and losses. She was even worse than a normal person. She looked very fragile. Xiao Qi gently nodded and looked at the basilica again. Just like that, 9 days passed. The 3 women stayed outside the basilica. Every time, they had a strong urge to go in and take a look. However, they held back and only waited for him outside. Chapter 1769. On the morning of the 10th day, the 3 ladies were still standing outside the basilica. They were all dressed in white gowns and were motionless. They were not in the mood to talk. Dong Jianxin slowly walked over with a lunchbox in her hand. She approached them and saw that their clothes were wet from the dew. She sighed helplessly. "3 ladies, let's eat something. If you don't eat, how can you bear it?" Xiao said, "Brother Dong, we are not in the mood to eat now. Let's take it back. If Chu Li doesn't succeed today, he will die." Die? Dong Jianxin was shocked. How? He was kept in the dark and did not know that Chu Li only had 10 days to live. Lu Yurong said, "I'm just afraid that his body can't take it." Dong Jianxin suddenly realized and said, "Brother is really stubborn. Then let Master come and help." "He doesn't want to trouble Hill Master." Lu Yurong shook her head. "If Hill Master wants to save him, it will be against the heavenly rules." "This?" Dong Jianxin frowned. "Whether Master breaks the heavenly rules or not, it's not up to us. It depends on Master's decision." "Chu Li doesn't want to disturb Hill Master." Lu Yurong said, "It's useless no matter what Brother Dong says." "No, I have to report to Master." Dong Jianxin turned and left. Lu Yurong said, "Brother Dong, it's a bit late now. There's no need." "What do you mean?" Dong Jianxin frowned. Lu Yurong sighed. "He doesn't have much time left. Master will be back soon. At least half a day, at most 3 to 4 days. He will definitely come back to save him." Dong Jianxin quickly said, "He only has today to live." Lu Yurong said, "Only today?" Dong Jianxin was in disbelief and shook his head. "How is that possible?" Lu Yurong shook her head and said nothing. "Why would he do that?" Dong Jianxin asked. Lu Yurong said, "It's to save me. Ling Shoren teamed up with a few celestial masters to attack me. Chu Li fell into their ambush to save me. In the end, in order to kill the celestial masters, he used a secret technique to kill them. He only has 10 days left to live. After he came back to see Xiao Qi, he isolated himself to cultivate and strive to become an enlightened master within 10 days. Sigh. It's too easy for him to become a heavenly god." Dong Jianxin shook his head and said, "This junior brother Chu is too proud and arrogant. Master clearly wants to ascend to the heavens and asked him to take over the position of mountain chieftain, but he doesn't want to take over. He doesn't want to be conferred as a god. He wants to become an Empyrean god himself. Even at this time, he still wants to be conferred as a god himself, really." Lu Yurong said, "This is his temper, who can persuade him? Third Miss can give it a try." Xiao Qi glanced at her and said, "He trusts you very much. Your words are very effective. Third Lady sure knows how to joke. He only has 10 days left to live, and the first thing he did was come back to see you." Lu Yurong shook her head and said, "Third Lady is really enviable." Xiao Qi chuckled. Xiao Shi said, "That's enough. None of you will be able to persuade him. All of you are extremely capable. If you meet him, you're done for." Xiao Qi and Lu Yurong looked embarrassed. Dong Jianxin sighed and said, "Are we going to just watch junior brother?" "Don't worry, Brother Dong. He will succeed," Lu Yurong said. Xiao Shi nodded lightly. Xiao Qi said, "It doesn't matter if it doesn't succeed." Xiao Qi rolled her eyes at her. Dong Jianxin shook his head. "No, I still want to see Master. Brother Dong, if you really go and beg your master, then you'll be going against his painstaking efforts." Lu Yurong said, "Forget it." She actually knew that becoming an enlightened master was not difficult. If they encountered a situation like Chu Li's, they would also be helpless. While Dong Jianxin was hesitating, there was suddenly an explosion of thunder in the sky. It was strange to have thunder in such a clear and cloudless sky, especially when they saw a large dark cloud rapidly gathering in the sky. The dark cloud was like a large umbrella covering the basilica. It was completed in the blink of an eye. Then, the thunder rumbled and it was even more shocking. They could not stand still and could not help but want to step back. Lu Yurong showed a happy expression and turned to look at Xiao Qi. "Seems like he succeeded?" Xiao Qi nodded lightly and showed a happy expression. Xiao Shi said, "Why did the heavenly thunder fall?" Dong Jianxin said excitedly, The heavenly thunder means that he is going against God's will, so the heavenly thunder will fall as punishment. It seems like Junior Brother really succeeded in becoming an enlightened master. Haha, it's unbelievable. Lu Yurong smiled and said, "This is nothing, right? Miss Lu, you don't know what it means for Junior Brother to become an enlightened master. It means that he is the first person to become an enlightened master in 1,000 years, Dong Jianxin said excitedly. Our goddess attraction mountain will become famous in the world from now on. I think there is one who became an enlightened master? Shao Qi frowned and said, that Changshan denomination's leader, Song Jifan, became an enlightened master. He? Dong Jianxin shook his head. He doesn't count. Why not? Shao Qi said. Dong Jianxin said, he is really going against God's will. He used the transformation pill, which is an evil technique. He will be hated and angered by all the enlightened masters. In the end, he will still be unlucky. Lu Yurong said, he is still very powerful now. In the future, when he reaches the Outland, there will definitely be enlightened masters who will settle the score with him. Dong Jianxin laughed coldly. The enlightened masters in this world are too weak and can't do anything to him. When he reaches the Outland, as they spoke, the thunder in the sky became louder. They needed to speak loudly so that they would not be covered by the thunder. Above the dark clouds, silver chains in the shape of a zigzag appeared. The lightning illuminated the basilica that was shrouded by the dark clouds. Then, with a crack, the thunder rumbled. Crash! The top of the basilica was destroyed, and the glazed roof directly turned into ashes and disappeared. Then, tens of thousands of thunderbolts struck the basilica at the same time. Oh no! Dong Jianxin exclaimed. Who would be able to withstand the power of this thunder? One strike was enough to turn him into ashes. This evil god was too much. He wanted to kill his junior brother, and did not give him the chance to become an enlightened master. Shao Qi's face instantly turned as white as snow. Lu Yurong frowned. Her jade-like hands clenched into fists, and her veins were faintly visible. Dong Jianxin took a step forward but took a step back. After this step, it was as if he was placed in another world. The air seemed to be flashing with lightning, and his whole body was numb. He had an intuition that if he took another step, he would be turned into ashes. Lu Yurong took a step forward, and her expression changed slightly. Then, her clothes fluttered without any wind, and the elusive ninth heaven fairy appeared above her head. The elusive ninth heaven fairy formed a seal with both of her hands, and a bolt of lightning struck, but it was absorbed by the elusive ninth heaven fairy and silently annihilated. However, she knew that this was useless. Compared to the tens of thousands of thunderbolts that Chu Li had experienced, one bolt of lightning was negligible. It could not help Chu Li at all. A huge ancient sword appeared in the sky. It was antique and attracted several bolts of lightning, which hit the back of the sword. The body of the sword flashed, and after a bright light was released, the lightning disappeared. A clear air appeared above Shao Shi's head. The clear air was like a white veil that enveloped the few bolts of lightning. The lightning disappeared without a trace in the clear air. The three women dispersed some of the thunderbolt. Unfortunately, compared to the tens of thousands of thunderbolts that Chu Li had experienced, it was still negligible. They were in despair. After experiencing these thunderbolts, they knew how powerful they were. Chu Li, on the other hand, experienced tens of thousands of thunderbolt. The entire basilica seemed to have turned into a pool of thunder. Chapter 1770. Inside the pool of thunder, the basilica was reduced to nothingness. The basilica disappeared, and they saw Chu Li's situation. Chu Li was bathed in the thunder. Blue light flashed around his body, and a faint power was emitted. Even though they were so far away, they could feel the violent and destructive force of the thunder. They could also feel Chu Li's strange power. His power was not inferior to the thunder. It was hidden in the thunder, but it stood proudly and could not be completely concealed. Chuli sat cross-legged on the ground as if he was dead. They could feel how difficult and distressed he was. If he was not careful, he would vanish. Forget becoming an enlightened master, even his soul might not be able to enter the outland and truly disappear. Dong Jinxin turned to look at Lu Yurong and Shao Qi. Shao Qi gently shook her head. Everyone, don't waste your energy. He can handle it. Lu Yurong gritted her teeth and withdrew the elusive ninth heaven fairy. Dong Jinxin sighed as the three women retreated. At this moment, he really hoped that his master would appear. Logically speaking, his master would be able to sense his junior brother becoming an enlightened master from the outland. However, he had not seen his master yet. It was likely that his master was in isolated cultivation or had something important to attend to. If his master was here, he would definitely be able to help his junior brother. The thunder was still as strong as ever. From afar, the dark clouds looked like umbrellas. Under the umbrellas were densely packed lightning that looked like a net made of silver threads. Chuli was trapped in the silver net. All the silver threads fell on him, but he did not move as if he was dead. However, looking at the dense and relentless silver threads, it was obvious that he was still alive. Everyone was on tenterhooks. It was beyond imagination that he could withstand such a powerful thunder. They could not even withstand one blow, let alone until now. The Heavenly Star Insight Technique and the Omniscient Mirror worked together to derive 4 Spirit Beast Heart Technique. The Dragon Taming Technique and the Black Tortoise Power used the same method. They both hid the later levels in the front, so it could not be hidden from the Heavenly Star Insight Technique. The 4 Spiritual Beast Mental Cultivation methods were activated at the same time. He felt a surge of energy rushing toward him from 4 different directions, piercing through the top of his head. Then, these 4 surges of energy gathered in his mind and condensed into a strange spiritual beast. This spirit beast had a strange shape. It looked like a tiger, but not a tiger, like a dragon, but not a dragon, like a vermilion bird, but not a black tortoise. It had the head of a tiger, the body of a dragon, the wings of a vermilion bird, and the shell of a black tortoise. Moreover, this spirit beast was only the size of a palm. It looked strange and exquisite, and faintly revealed a bit of cuteness and playfulness. It was full of spirituality. Following the formation of this spirit beast, the inner energy of the 4 spirit beasts in his body disappeared, as if he had never cultivated it before. The combination of the Heavenly Star Insight Technique and the Omniscient Mirror truly lived up to its name. He sighed deeply, feeling extremely proud of himself. The Buddhas, demons, and Vajras in the void of his mind were indifferent to its arrival. It was as if they did not see it and did not feel any rejection. Chuli heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that its appearance would trigger a conflict in his mind, which would be a huge problem. After a moment, he suddenly felt refreshed, and a strange feeling welled up. It was as if the distance between him and the world had suddenly shortened, and he could reach it if he stretched out his hand. He was heaven and earth were him. Every move he made was imbued with the power of heaven and earth, and its power was infinite. He was aware that this was definitely an illusion. An enlightened master did not have such great power, or else he would have been killed by an enlightened master long ago. As this feeling was born, the sky was filled with dark clouds, and thunder began to fall. The power of thunder caused him to subconsciously activate the indestructible body of titanium. With the power of thunder, he activated the indestructible body of titanium to the 12th level in one go, achieving perfect mastery and achieving the true indestructible body of titanium. His body was like a Vajra, strong and indestructible. In this state, even if he was bathed in thunder, he could still hold on, but he felt that he would collapse at any time. Although the indestructible body of titanium was strong, it did not mean that it could not be destroyed in this world. When it encountered such a violent power, which was imbued with the will of the Grandmaster, it was also in danger of being destroyed at any time. After cultivating the heart technique of the 4 spirit beasts to perfection, his body had also reached a peak state, a state that surpassed the limits of humans, and was close to that of a spirit beast. The defense of his body was already extremely strong, and after breaking through to the enlightened master level, his body continued to break through its limits, and his body continued to strengthen. Under the pressure of the power of thunder, his body continued to strengthen, but after reaching a certain strength, it reached its limit again and could not strengthen anymore, or else his body would be in danger of collapsing. The indestructible body of titanium was like a layer of colored glass, blocking the thunder outside of his body. No matter how violent it was, it could not penetrate his body. Chu Li smiled, but as soon as his smile appeared, it gradually froze. He realized that the thunder seemed to be angry, becoming more and more violent, and the indestructible body of titanium was also showing signs of breaking. He frowned and once again activated the Supreme Diamond's Supreme Scripture. In his mind, the Supreme Diamond suddenly made a strange hand seal, as if a hole had opened on the top of his head, and the indestructible body of titanium revealed a small hole. Suddenly, the power of thunder rushed in, directly drilling into the Supreme Diamond's body. The Supreme Diamond was immediately wrapped in blue lightning, and its figure could no longer be seen clearly. Chu Li could clearly feel the feeling of fullness coming from the Supreme Diamond. The Supreme Diamond became clearer, as if it was real, as if it had really come to life. After the Supreme Diamond came to life, Sun Mingyue's figure gradually began to dissipate, and as the thunder increased, her figure became fainter and fainter. Chu Li was shocked, and he wanted to stop, but he could not. Sun Mingyue's figure seemed to have a life of its own, and it absorbed the thunder on its own. He wanted to stop it from absorbing, but it was useless, and he could only watch it disappear. Chu Li felt a sense of loss. Sun Mingyue's position in his heart was quite strange, and the relationship between them was also strange. However, he was extremely reluctant to let Sun Mingyue disappear just like that, and he was even a little sad. After all, he could achieve what he had today, thanks to Sun Mingyue. As Sun Mingyue's figure disappeared, the Supreme Diamond solidified a little more, and it was lifelike. Then, it made another hand seal, and suddenly, the raging thunder entered, drilling into the Supreme Diamond's palms, and gradually condensed into a small dark blue ball, about the size of a ping-pong ball. It kept spinning, and when it flashed, it faintly burst out with lightning. Chu Li watched the Supreme Diamond's actions coldly, watching it absorb the thunder to form a ball. Although he was frightened, he did not interfere, and let it do whatever it wanted. As time passed, the thunder ball between the Supreme Diamond's palms grew larger, from the size of a ping-pong ball to the size of a basketball. Chu Li was even more shocked. The dark clouds in the sky slowly dissipated, and the thunder gradually weakened and finally disappeared. However, Shao Qi was shocked to see that all the thunder had drilled into his baihui, as if he had become a vessel for the thunder. When they looked at Chu Li, they were a little afraid that he would finally be unable to withstand the thunder, and finally explode. With so much thunder, they were sure that if it exploded, they would definitely die, and they would vanish into thin air, and their souls would also disappear. When they thought of this, they saw Chu Li float up and step 10 meters in the void, and then take a step forward. When he was close to them, they could not help but take a step back. Chapter 1771. You've become an enlightened master? Shao Qi asked. Chu Li smiled and nodded. I was lucky, Shao Qi said. Then just now? It's just a heavenly punishment. Chu Li shook his head. It seems like Grandmaster Outland has this habit. Once one becomes an enlightened master, lightning will strike. Are you really okay? Shaoqi asked. Chu Li shook his head. I'm fine, I've never been better. Everyone suddenly realized that Chu Li had returned to normal. His old and frail appearance had disappeared, and he had turned into a young man full of vigor. Moreover, he was in high spirits and his azure eyes were shining with electricity. This was real lightning, and not an illusion formed by his eyes being too bright. This kind of lightning really had the power to hurt people. They only stared at his azure blue eyes a few times, and they already felt a burning pain. This was just an unintentional leak. If he really concentrated on his eyes, perhaps it would be even more terrifying. Enlightened Master. Shaoqi shook her head helplessly. Once Chu Li became an enlightened master, it meant that their fate as a married couple would gradually fade. They might even drift apart and become strangers. This was because enlightened masters had a strong restraining effect on non-heavenly masters. Once they got close, enlightened masters would continuously hurt non-heavenly masters. This was especially true between a married couple. Unless the other person did not know martial arts and did not trigger an inner energy reaction, they would be more and more injured when they were together. Their lives might even be in danger. Chu Li knew this, so he would definitely think of ways to avoid it. He might even not be intimate with her. Chu Li smiled. Madam, don't worry. I have a way. What way? Shaoqi did not care about the others around and asked in surprise. Chu Li said, I can cripple my martial arts and recover them at any time. Don't forget my abilities. Won't that delay things? Shaoqi frowned. What if there's an emergency or someone ambushes you and you lose your life? Chu Li smiled. How can there be such a coincidence? Moreover, enlightened masters are very sensitive. If someone ambushes me, I'll sense danger in advance. That's true. Shaoqi nodded. She knew that Chu Li's intuition was much better than that of ordinary people. When he was still a grandmaster, he was not inferior to an enlightened master. Now that he had become an enlightened master, it was only natural that his intuition would be stronger. She was sure that he would be able to sense danger earlier. Lu Yurong and Xiao Shi were exceptionally intelligent. They naturally understood what the two of them were talking about. They looked at the two of them with a faint smile. They wanted to laugh, but they held it in. This was indeed rather awkward for a married couple. Junior brother, the realm beyond heaven let you off just like that? Dong Jianxin was still in disbelief. Based on what he knew, the realm beyond heaven would not easily allow anyone to cultivate to become a god. They would destroy such gods at all costs to prevent them from disrupting the current order. The apotheosized god was already very stable now, and everyone accepted it. If there was someone like Chu Li who cultivated to become a god, it would definitely cause discussion and dissatisfaction. The grandmasters would definitely kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. Chu Li was that chicken. If they failed to kill him, more and more people would come after them. Regardless of whether the later generations could become gods or not, the world situation would definitely change and order would be re-established. What was even more terrifying was that if the later generations were to all cultivate to become gods instead of waiting for the realm beyond Avalon to be sealed, where would the authority of the realm beyond Avalon be? Chu Li said, You're right, senior brother. I think there's a backup plan, it's just that it hasn't shown itself yet. Then we must be extremely careful. They have come with ill intentions, Dong Jian said in his heart. Chu Li nodded and smiled. Senior brother, you should be worrying about how to take over the Hill Master's position now. You are now an Empyrean deity, so you are naturally the mountain chieftain. Dong Jianxin shook his head. I have no hope. Chu Li said, that might not be the case. Master might have a way. Dong Jianxin showed a helpless look. He truly didn't want to take over as a heavenly deity. The responsibility was too great. However, now that his junior apprentice brother had become a heavenly deity, the immortal attraction mountain would no longer be a threat. The pressure on him had actually lessened. Even so, the chances of him becoming a heavenly god were extremely slim. Chu Li smiled. Master will be back today. Back then, he had set a deadline of 1 month. Today was the deadline. Master would definitely ask for his choice. He suddenly felt that he was lucky enough to become an enlightened master due to all sorts of coincidences. If he didn't save Lu Yurong, without her help in comprehension, he wouldn't be able to become an enlightened master in a month. Today, there was only one choice: to become an enlightened master. Although he didn't want to become an enlightened master, he couldn't be willful when he thought of the responsibilities of the immortal attraction mountain. As they spoke, a dragon's roar came from the sky. Then, a golden light appeared between the clouds and looked at Chu Li from 100 miles up in the sky. A blue light flashed in Chu Li's eyes. He looked at the golden dragon and saw the strange look in its eyes. In the past, the golden dragon didn't even look at him and couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. He looked at the golden dragon in the distance thoughtfully. The golden dragon's look must have had a deeper meaning, but he couldn't understand it at the moment. Zhou Dunli floated down and looked at Chu Li with a serious expression. Chu Li fist saluted. Master! The 3 women fist saluted as well. Dong Jianxin fist saluted and smiled. Master, junior brother really became an enlightened master. It's a miracle. Zhou Dunli nodded and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled. Is there something wrong? You. Zhou Dunli shook his head helplessly. Take care of yourself. He emphasized on each word as he glanced at the sky. Chu Li immediately understood and nodded. Yes, thank you, Master. He understood Zhou Dunli's meaning. The Outland still wanted to deal with him, so he should be careful and not leave Goddess Attraction Mountain. He could understand Zhou Dunli's meaning with these 4 words. Other than the tacit understanding between the master and disciple, it was also because he could use the omniscient mirror. The omniscient mirror could see into the mind of an enlightened master. This was the biggest gain for him. His divine powers were no longer restrained. After the omniscient mirror could be used, the heavenly star insight skill also improved and became more powerful. In this way, he could predict the fate of an enlightened master. Zhou Dunli looked at Dong Jianxin. Jianxin, get ready to receive the empowerment. Master, forget it. Dong Jianxin shook his head. It's enough for Goddess Attraction Mountain to have a junior brother. He's the most suitable to be the hill master. I can't do it. You're the senior brother. If you can't do it, who can? Zhou Dunli said sternly. Success or failure, we'll see after we try. We can't retreat before trying. I know without trying, Dong Jianxin said. Chu Li asked, Master, do we have to go up? There's no other way. Zhou Dunli sighed. I don't want to get involved in the war of the Outlands so early. Unfortunately, I have no choice. Sigh. Chu Li said, Why don't I go up in place of Master? As soon as he said this, the 3 women's eyes widened. Dong Jianxin's eyes widened too. Zhou Dunli was stunned for a moment before he smiled. You're really imaginative. Chu Li said, I seem to have heard that enlightened masters who cultivate to become gods can enter the Outland at will. Is there such a rule? You know about this? Zhou Dunli was surprised. Chu Li said, I've heard about it. He only knew about it from the thought that flashed through Zhou Dunli's mind. Zhou Dunli sighed. There is such a rule. It was established 1,000 years ago. Now, almost no one knows about it. Chu Li said, The Outland deliberately ignored it and blocked the news. But if I step into the Outland, I can return, right? Chapter 1772. Chu Li said, Master, aren't we going to kill Asuras? I have the most experience in killing Asuras. It doesn't matter how much experience I have. Zhou Dunli shook his head and sighed. The Asuras are not the Asuras of the past. When they were in this world, they couldn't even exert half of their power. If an enlightened master like me goes to the Grandmaster's boundary, wouldn't there be an increase? Chu Li asked. Zhou Dunli nodded. The spiritual energy in the Outland is especially rich, so it's easier to perform martial arts, and the power will be greater. Chu Li smiled. That's it. If they become stronger, I'll become stronger too. But you can't get twice as strong, but they can. Zhou Dunli said, You might be able to defeat them in this realm, but you're no match for them in the realm beyond heavens. If that's the case. Chu Li smiled. I'd like to experience it for myself. Forget it, just leave it to me, Zhou Dunli said. Chu Li saw his determined expression and knew that it was useless to say anything else. He could only sigh and give up. He didn't have much hope that Zhou Dunli wouldn't agree to it. Master, let me do it. Dong Jianxin gritted his teeth and said, I accept the enlightenment. Zhou Dunli smiled. That's good. It's not impossible. This time I'll use the newest idea. I'm sure you'll be able to surpass others, as long as your luck isn't that bad. My luck has never been very good, Dong Jian said in his heart. Chu Li smiled. That might not be the case. Senior brother, you were unlucky. How could you have entered Goddess Attraction Mountain? How could you have been apprenticed to master? How could you have come this far? That's true. Dong Jianxin laughed. Chu Li asked again, Master, can I accept the Grandmaster's order now? Of course. Zhou Dunli nodded. You have to take the Beyond Heavens dictum seriously. Chu Li nodded. I'll go kill the Asuras right away. Shao Qi suggested, Let's rest here for a few days. She had also noticed Dong Jianxin's worry and Zhou Dunli's warning. She wanted Chu Li to hide at Goddess Attraction Mountain for a while to avoid the sharp aura. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Since he understood Shao Qi's worries, there was nothing wrong with going along with her wishes. It would be good for him to hide for 2 days, because he really could not be courteous to the Grandmaster. After staying on Goddess Attraction Mountain for 3 days, Chu Li had completely stabilized his enlightened mastery's boundary. Moreover, he could withdraw his enlightened God's field at any time. All he had to do was circulate the life and death scripture. In this way, it would no longer hinder the couple from getting along. On the morning of the 4th day, Chu Li left Goddess Attraction Mountain by himself. Shao Qi and the other 2 girls were still there, and Zhou Dunli was also preparing to perform the empowerment on Dong Jianxin. Chu Li suddenly disappeared. He had already deduced the location of an Asura, so he was going to take his heart of Asura and accumulate merits. The realm beyond Avalon attached great importance to the realm beyond Avalon. If one could follow the order and achieve their goals, the realm beyond Avalon would not be stingy with their rewards. In a bustling capital city, a middle-aged man was strolling on the streets, shaking his head as he looked at the bustling people around him. He sighed in his heart. The weaker a person was, the more they needed to stick together. However, the truly strong were all alone, each of them walking alone. Seeing the clamor of the people around him, not only did he not feel envious, he only felt disdain and mockery. A murderous intent surged in his heart. If he could eliminate the people in this city, his Asura palm would be able to advance to the next level and become even more powerful. The advantage of being in this world was that he could kill people at will, and thus cultivate his secret skill. If he cultivated this secret skill in the realm beyond Avalon, he would need to kill fewer celestials, but it would be more difficult. In this world, although he would need to kill 10 times the number of people, it would be easier. He estimated that if he killed everyone in this city, he would be able to cultivate the Asura palm, but if he wanted to kill everyone in one go, he still needed to think carefully. He wandered around the city, trying to find the city's weakness, and strived to kill everyone in one go, so that no one would escape. At this moment, Chu Li appeared on the road he was moving forward, smiling at him. The middle-aged Azura frowned and stared at Chuli. He smelled an extremely annoying aura from Chuli. He was actually an enlightened master. "Who are you?" the middle-aged man asked in a low voice. Chuli replied, "The person who will kill you." "Ridiculous." The middle-aged man sneered and glanced around. "You dare to make a move here?" Chuli nodded. "You can choose a place to bury your bones, it's not impossible here." "You know who I am?" the middle-aged man asked. Chuli nodded. "Of course. Since you know, why did you say you want to kill me?" The middle-aged man shook his head. "You're wasting your time. Although you're immortal and indestructible, you're not truly immortal. It's just a reincarnation, and you might not be able to recall your previous memories." Chuli smiled. "Killing you is still useful. Azuras also had the mystery of womb, the mystery of entering womb, the mystery of staying womb, and the mystery of leaving womb. These three difficulties trapped their memories of their past lives. To be truly indestructible, they needed to be extremely lucky, so they were also extremely afraid of death. It was only because they had the opportunity to relive their past lives that they were not as afraid as humans." The middle-aged man sneered. "If you dare to make a move, I'll kill these people." Chuli said, "If you can do it, then you're really capable. Come." As soon as he finished speaking, he flashed behind the middle-aged man. His speed was as fast as lightning, and the aura circulating in his body carried a trace of electricity. This trace of electricity greatly increased his speed, and it also boosted the power of his inner energy. Bang! The middle-aged man had no choice but to face it head-on. His body instantly stiffened, and his eyes widened as he expected the next outcome. Just as he was about to cry out in alarm, his vision suddenly went black. Chuli smiled and looked at the red light that flashed, and a heart of Azura appeared. He nodded in satisfaction. This heart of Azura could be used to obtain a spirit pill. In the Outland, spirit pills must be extremely efficacious. Although Chuli was not that fond of spirit pills, he had friends and his wife by his side. The spirit pill in the Outland was called the Carefree Pill, but it was actually a pill that could preserve one's appearance. After consuming it, one's appearance would remain forever and would never change. Even when one's lifespan was about to end, there would not be any changes. Although Shao Qi could maintain her youthful appearance after cultivating the regal sword scripture, as time passed, traces would still be left behind. After consuming this carefree pill, not only would one's appearance change, but one's temperament would also remain the same, just like Elder Fong. Shao Qi would definitely like it. As soon as his smile faded, his expression suddenly turned solemn. Suddenly, 6 spirit beasts appeared in the sky and hovered motionlessly in the air. They were supreme spirit beasts. He could clearly feel how weak he was and how powerful the 6 spirit beasts were. Even though he was an enlightened master, he was still extremely humble in front of them. He could feel the murderous intent from their bodies, and it was clearly transmitted to the bottom of his heart. It was obvious that they wanted to kill him because they cultivated the spirit beast heart technique. His omniscient mirror was ineffective against them because they were so much stronger. Even without the omniscient mirror, he could clearly see their thoughts. Chu Li's little trick could not be hidden from them, and instead, he had angered them. They wanted to kill him, and it would serve as a warning to those who came after him. Chu Li took a deep breath and used God's limbs to escape, but he realized that the space around him had been locked, and the enlightened God field was also frozen. He was once again in a desperate situation. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.